to save our home, we must travel through the gateway to find new energy.
Racing for heat number 1 here in Austria from AMX 20 in towards the Niki Lauda curve, bumping and banging and into the wall. That is a horrible crash. That's a huge lunge from Gaston Calabi, and he's made contact with, I believe, oh wow, it's a chaotic moment here. And slipstream in front for either car, and you can just see Petter Silva pushing Florian Lamigra right over.
Here we go then, Valeri, he looks left, he looks right, he's getting through the right hand side, which is the inside going 8 to 10-3.
Here it is. This is the crucial moment in this race. It's looking like it's only going one way. David Dott is going to take the race lead. Heading into the second half of the season, the Hungarian of David Dott has driven a masterclass here with the early pit stop. Not the ideal strategy, but an ideal race winner and an excellent performance.
Miranda Petter Zuba into the wall.
It's actually Valero. Valero's actually gone up into the barriers, coming up to the cutting.
David Todd making his way back up, is already climbed 7 positions.
Oh, I spoke too soon there. Sandy goes up.
So right now, this is going to be where it's going to get shaken up. David Todd passes them while they are in the pit through the mountain straight now, going 3 wide.
Oh my word, that is probably one of the best shows of the entire season.
So we have 3-way battle going to the most dangerous turn of the mountain. Up the mountain, we have contact right there. These guys going absolutely crazy. It's going to come down to the final corner, Murray's corner. Who is going to have to lead? We may have a drag race to the finish line on our hands, folks. You see David Todd right now going into the pit lane.
Carousel immediately, he gets punted off! That was some drop! He's gone up, he's been tapped, and he's into the barriers. Oh, the rejoin!
Oh,
Oh,
and-
no!
Dean. Oh, Pedro, Dean.
Oh, Chris Lalum does have the inside track for the left. If he's able to make that pass happen, he might be able to cut away Victorino. He does make that pass, and he makes it clean as they come into the right-hander. This is it. Chris Lalum seizes the opportunity and makes it. And just as the end, the rain comes to put a pin onto the end of the race, and Chris Lalum takes it.
And indeed, the new season, or rather now we're at the halfway point, past the halfway point of Season 5 of the AMX Sim Racing World Championship, takes us here for another round of AMX 5, race 29 here at Ledenon in France in the Ray FF1600 cars. Can't wait to see how this historic French track will play host to some exciting cars. Welcome along then from Amir. Alongside me is Julian, and we are here today for what we could say is a very close quarters affair, don't you think?
It will be very close as with this current track combo. I mean, such a small track. I don't think a lot of people have heard of it, but it's a great track for racing, great track for qualifying as well, to watch the cars go full send around. I think we're in for a great Grand Prix.
Indeed, and again, the circuit plus with the car, especially the Formula 4 1600s, really is the bread and butter for drivers who just want to get into single-seater racing, especially when they come from karts. It's such a shame that most Formula 4 championships around the world have been lost to Formula 4, but make no mistake, it is still quite a important skill to learn, especially with the fact that we don't have the wings and slicks combo that we have here. Rather, we have semi-slicks. But as you can see at the bottom of our screens, our socials from Instagram all the way to TikTok. Of course, we're live on Twitch and YouTube where you can comment on us. And in fact, we've been having a lot of Twitch comments recently, especially from that Interlagos AMX 5 race last week, which was absolutely amazing. So we'd love to see more of that. And you can follow us on X as well. Discord, where you can actually talk to the drivers directly, or you can just take part in it. Plus, you can sign on the website. But before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's go into what is on offer here today. The AMX Sim Racing World Championship Season 5 has been on since the 25th of May, and it will go all the way to the end of next month, or right in the middle of next month, August 18th, with a prize pool of $15,000 plus next level racing gear, which you can see after this. We can show what is at stake for the drivers. The format tonight is a 20-minute qualifier first to start off. Then we have the top 15 reverse, with the script being flipped here for that first heat of 20 minutes. Then we do it the same thing again based on the finishing position for another 20-minute heat, with prizes amounting for every standing same for every session. Driver cams are required for all the classes, as been made mandatory over the past season, with balances of about $100 paid out every month. And the race days are on Saturdays and Sundays, which you can sign up to race at any time at amxrace.com. You can still sign up now, by the way, if you want to actually join in the Formula 4s at Ledenon. Schedule, and this is the one that we've been rotating the past few weeks, where we have AMX 5 on Saturdays and Sundays, but on every alternate weekend, we have AMX on the Saturday, but AMX 0 and 20, crucially, will be on the menu as well, where we have a bit of a shorter waiting time, so that will start a bit earlier on the Sunday. But for the other usual schedules, it will start at 5:50 p.m. GMT, and the second AMX race will be at 7:20 p.m. GMT on Saturdays and Sundays. And here's the prize pool that we promised. This is the same for all the positions in all the sessions, with a few add-ons, especially in the race stakes. It's Heat 1 and Heat 2 with the fastest lap here for $2 extra. But if you have to get a clean sweep of all, you can literally get about $50 max here, with a minimum road eye rating of 2,000 and a prize pool of about $250 per race. So that is part of the things out of the way, but we still have a few more things to take off, including here a overview of the AMX 5 top 10 And so far, Guy Valero has been the class of the field with 17 races under his belt, 2 wins, but 8 heat wins crucially. So that means that he can notch up those wins almost at will, like Simona Seminara in that picture over there. 4 races, 4 overall race wins. But look at that gap, exactly 100 points between Valero and Bruno De Carmo. So if De Carmo wants to overhaul Valero for the AMX 5 first spot, he might need to get some races out of the way here. Resende, Gojavi, and Dean, your top 5. Rest of the field, Danta, Seminara, Guinness, Felipa, and Diego Villarreal round out your top 10 there, with Seminara being the biggest gainer of 6 positions from that ACC race. And as promised, here's the prize that we have for the AMX5 drivers, a GT Elite Wheel Plate Edition rig with an ERS3 reclining seat. So if you like racing to be a bit comfy, that's the seat for you, and with a high-class rig to go with it. So that will be at stake for whoever will win AMX5. So then, that is the first phase of housekeeping out of the way. Now we'll give it over to Julian to tell us what this track and car combo is at stake. Julian?
Well, like you mentioned earlier, we are in France. Circuit de Ledenon as opened first in 1973. The city itself is Ledenon, a rather small city in the French countryside, but it's a lovely city. With a length of 3.15 kilometers, this circuit is going to offer fantastic racing all the way from down the main straight throughout sectors 1 and 2, and then the very fast sector 3 will produce plenty of great battles. And we'll be racing in the beloved Ray Formula Ford 1600 with a power of just over 100 horsepower at 115 horsepower. Rear wheel drive with a weight of half a kilo. The gearbox is manual, and this is the machine that the drivers will be tackling around the Circuit de Ledenon.
And indeed, as you can clearly see there, the tires are not slicks. There are no wings on this thing, so it's a pure raw racing machine. A lot of sliding will be required, and we already have comments here. The usual suspects, of course, coming to say hi to us for a good evening of racing. So welcome you lot. We're ready to get underway here for qualifying in the AMX 5 Season 5 race here at Ledenon. For first qualifying is underway. Here we are then, on board with one of the Delente Tony Canan cars. Yeah, it's a bit difficult to say the sponsor name because it is from Brazil, but we have one of the drivers here looking forward to how he's going to tackle the qualifying here in the Formula 4 1600 cars. And just look at that first sector alone. It immediately stands out to you, Julian, that this track isn't going the normal clockwise direction, it's anti-clockwise, but it's very hilly. It's almost like pole.
I mean, it's up and down. It's a roller coaster. These guys must be absolutely loving it. We're on board with Bruno De Carmo right here, who's really maximizing the track, it must be said. Currently on provisional pole, we got Pedro, Dean. But yeah, we've only got just over 8 minutes, or we've already gone just over 8 minutes in qualifying so far. So anything can still happen, but it really is up and down. It's almost like we're driving in the Alps, aren't we?
Indeed, and in fact that I say Pau because Pau is a street circuit that actually is quite undulating as well. Also want to mention it's a bit like Dijon, but it goes the other direction as opposed to being clockwise, it's anti-clockwise. Yes, Exhaust Sniffer and Just Keep, I see you in the comment section right there. Dory will give you a shout out because we want to call out the action, but then we like to give you guys a bit of a heads up here, especially the fact that you bring the chat to life. But going back to the circuit, yeah, you can see the Ledenon. It looks a bit like Dijon, yeah, but it's just a bit slower and it's been around not as long compared to Dijon. Just across the brow here, it's just an amazing circus, not really that well known compared to the other French circuits, but nonetheless a great place to race it here, don't you think, Julian?
Absolutely. I mean, just from watching this one hot lap from Bruno De Carmo, you could see him down in the bottom left, weaving around at the steering wheel, trying to keep the car pointed in the right direction. As we were talking there, Jackson Resendez picked up P1 here, but only a tenth quicker than Benitez, so everything's still to play for. Still, what is so easy to make a mistake in these cars. It's really important, since they're quite frankly, underpowered if you compare it to other Formula cars. To keep them high in the rev range or to maximize your minimum speed on Apex, but these guys, they've got that down. They don't need me to say that. They've got this. They know how to do this.
Indeed. And this is just a real driver's car. It really teaches you a lot of good basic techniques, especially when you come from karting. As we have a comment there from, I think, yep, Just Keep just put it there. And good morning as well to, good afternoon, in fact, to driver camps. Yeah, Lando put it on pole in qualifying for the Hungarian Grand Prix today. Let's see if Bruno De Carmo can actually repeat that with that McLaren overall. But I think because Tony Kanaan himself is also an ambassador to the McLaren IndyCar team, so that's why he's sporting the same colors as well. It might not necessarily be McLaren F1, it's just the Aero sponsorship that also ties in with the IndyCar team. Small things there, but the thing is, we'll see if De Carmo can do it. For the time being, it's his teammate Jackson Resende at 26.6, a 10th ahead at the front here. Now, with Bruno De Carmo second, Benitez third, Dean fourth. So that's about a Brazilian 1, 2, 3, 4. That will really be bringing the Independence Day vibes up there for the Brazilians. If Dantas can join in for the top 5 as well. Imagine they won in Brazil, but they couldn't pull that off, Julian.
That would have been some sight to see a top 4 in Brazil. With the top 4 Brazilian, I think Evandro Dantas has got a great chance to get back up there, as we see massive slide for Jackson Resende as he's trying to build out a bigger gap and keep provisional pole. As it is, though, it is reverse grid, so well, I say this every time, qualifying is a whole nother story. Compare it to race trim and fighting through traffic. You don't want to get caught up in someone spinning in front of you or spinning yourself, so it's all about keeping your nose clean going into the race.
And certainly, especially those fast guys who try to get those slower drivers quote unquote out of the way, because no doubt a lot of these guys know how to drive iRacing like the back of their hands, but maybe a bit of jitters, maybe that the pace or the car and track combo is not up to their liking. It may not be their cup of tea, though they'll have to negotiate away. And the fast guys especially, they might just have to be careful, especially given the fact that these are like Formula 1 cars, open wheel, but they have a bit of a caveat. Like the Formula Vs in iRacing, if you were to say lock wheels with each other, a car can flip, and hopefully that doesn't happen today, but it has happened before in the past, so I'm not sure if you're looking forward to that, Julian.
Well, I would like to commentate on motor racing or car racing, not airplane racing, so I hope it doesn't happen. I'm sure it would be a spectacle, but I prefer my racing on the ground, fully connected via aero. No front wing to help with the front aero, though. But these drivers don't need. They're really maximizing the track, aren't they? Up to the gravel and grass. They're taking the beach vacation, I think, a tad bit too early, aren't they?
Yeah, you might think this is Zandvoort rather than we're in Ledenon here, but that isn't the case. You can see, as you rightly pointed out, Julian, a lot of drivers using the out extremities to the max, so they really want to maximize a lot of time and the road to find a bit of lap time. And you're right about one thing, we do not want to see cars flying here, as we will quote Walter Roll. If he wanted to be he wanted to take off, he would rather be a pilot.
Yep, and I think sim racing, it's just a bit more difficult than being a pilot. Not too sure, I think it's a wee bit more difficult, but still a Brazilian top 4, Jackson Resende, still leading the way. We've got just over 6 minutes left in this session then. But if you look at the timing, it's very close. Look at P2 and P3, Bruno De Carmo and Benitez. 26.7 for the pair of them, separated by 4,000. So anything can still happen in this qualifying session, and I'm all for it as we enter the final couple of minutes of the session.
Indeed, and one guy who hasn't set a lap time here is Gerard Sardini. He's still there in P9, but still hasn't got a lap time. As we can see, a brand new feature for the season, just multi-camera drivers out on track. You can see every one of them is actually driving right now. From the top there, it's Resende, then De Carmo, Benitez, and Dean. So all 4 Brazilians are in shot right now. Mauricio Lozano is the only... okay, at Kulhavi and Villarreal so underneath that. I was about to say non-Portuguese speaker here, but they're all Brazilians and they speak Portuguese. The only one that went in the Spanish side of things. But anyway, Resende then setting the second fastest time overall in the second the first overall fastest time in the second sector. Now let's see if he could actually nail it here in the final corner. Oh, never mind, spoke too soon. Just as we got onto him, he goes a bit wide here. Now he's gonna let the guy behind pass by and just scuffed up this lap, but he'll just be trying to work his way through and start another one after this.
Yeah, and yellow sector in the bottom timings is not improving at all. Green is personal best, and purple is fastest of anyone. Good job. Benitez running, Descende running very wide, as Benitez has now picked up provisional pole. Like I've mentioned, everything's still up to grabs. We can still see the likes of Villarreal coming into the top 5, something like that, as we are on board with Bruno De Carmo, who is currently on his lap. He just finished Sector 1 then, and he's looking to move himself maybe onto the front row, maybe even pole position here, as these cars, they look like they're going super fast because they're so small with such a pretty big track. They're really just sending it uphill, downhill, left, right, apex, curb, you name it, full send everywhere.
On the contrary, I think this actually is quite a small circuit, if anything, because it does make the cars look like they're going much faster than they really are. So it's just a nice change of pace, isn't it, compared to some of the big circuits that normally host Formula Ford racing. We got a somewhat small club circuit that really allows these cars to show what they're made of. And when they come through the corners like that, it is normally a slow corner, but they just look so fast because they're much lighter. You can carry the speed through it and just look like they're highly chuckable. Like case here, Maurizio Lozano, thankfully, he actually found the pits immediately and will try to start another one because he will have enough time to actually do at least one more push lap, as we are now with who's this? This is Pedro Dean, in fact, who has gotten on pole position. Well, we say pole position because it will reverse the script after this. He is setting the fastest time in qualifying in the Hot Wheels livery Formula Ford car. And we have some comments from the Twitch section, and we had somebody from Brazil last time. It was Poco Prata, who was really happy to see Brazilians up in front. They'll definitely be happy to see now that the top 4 is covered by all of them. With Evandro Dantas mixing the script slightly, but hopefully he can actually get a good time going here to see if he can make it a Brazilian top 5. Now with Dean, looks as though this might not be a push lap, Julian. He just probably is using this as a sighter.
Absolutely, and Evandro Dantas, he's got quite a bit to go. He needs math. He needs 1 second if we want to make a top 5 all Brazilian, but yeah, it's not impossible, just very unlikely. But with a reverse grid, he'll be finding himself currently in P3. So we'll have 4 Brazilians fighting their way through the grid then. As it stands right now, we've just got over 2 minutes left. So these are the final laps that we will get. And so far, it doesn't really look like anyone's improving. Bruno De Carmo, yellow in all 3 sectors. Pedro Dean, yellow in sectors 1 and 2. Ralph Benitez, also yellow in sector 1 and 2. But Jackson Resende is absolutely flying out there. He was purple in the first sector, lost a bit of time in the second. This could be provisional pole.
Yeah, don't mind the times. It might be a bit slow on updating. He does go on pole position by over a 10th in front of Pedro Dean. So Dean will now have to dig a bit deeper here around this short-ish circuit for Formula 4 cars to actually get another fast time. As you can see how the grip is not really there compared to other single-seaters. It is semi-slicks on these cars. You can see that little middle line there. It's grooved tires as opposed to full-on slicks that we see like in, say, Formula 4, Formula 3, up to Super Formulas and Indy cars that we have on the iRacing service. As we are going to pit lane, we're seeing Diego Villarreal hanging back, having a sip of water. Maybe he's just happy to stay there because now he could still start in P2 once we flip the script for heat number 1. Nice little livery, of course, with the South American Racing Team colors on his car. Pedro Dean, on the other hand, looks as though he may not be able to do another lap because he's going to crash. He's off, and that's it. That's the end of his qualifying. Moving on to Ralph Benitez. Let's see if the Tony Kanaan guy can make a difference here, Julian.
Well, it seemed like a clean lap so far then. He's got half of sector 3 left, entering the final corner now. Up there, he's going to power pass right up to the gravel like everyone has been for the last 19.5 minutes. Can he improve on his time? He's been 4th best out of all Brazilians so far. It's going to take a while. He has started another hot lap, as I don't think he has improved on his time. So maybe He saved up a bit his tires as to go for a one final push lap here with 5 seconds left. So these are the final times you will see. Or is it over?
Actually, Julian, sorry to interrupt you, but unfortunately, that's the end of qualifying because once the clock strikes 20 minutes, that's it. That's the end of qualifying. It's not like we have an extra lap. So, unfortunately for Bruno De Carmo, he is not able to convert that McLaren-colored overall to do what Lando Norris did and get pole position. But however, he'll be happy to see that it's an all-Brazilian front 2 rows with Jackson Resende, your BenQ session winner, up in front by a 10. In front of Pedro Dean, with Benitez 4th, 3rd, De Carmo 4th, Lozano 5th. That's your top 5. Kulhavi, Dantas, Villarreal, and Sardini will be rounding the rear in this session. But remember, we flipped the script. They'll be up in front once racing gets underway proper here at Ledenon, Julian.
Yep, anything can happen. You have the quick guys, Jackson Resende, Pedro Dean, Ralph Benitez, making their way through traffic as the likes of Diego Villarreal and Gerard Sardina are going to try and hold on for dear life to that race win. Anything can happen. It's going to be chaotic. It's going to be action-packed, and I'm all for it, to be completely honest. It's going to be a great Grand Prix ahead of us.
Indeed, and we'll have 2 of these heats as well here at Ledenon. So, without further ado, let's get that first heat underway here at Ledenon with the front row completely reversed from what we saw in qualifying, where it's Sardini and Villarreal up in front, and we still are a bit stuck in the screen here. Apologies for the technical glitch, but we do have drivers lined up right now. Yeah, there we go, bang on cue. So thank God for that. Short delay, we're going to get the green flag waved underway here for the first of 2 heats at Ledenon. Up in front is Gerard Sardini Jr. Beside him is Diego Villarreal, and behind them it's Dantas and Kulhavi. Waiting for the green lights to come on, or the flag, because we have flags here in iRacing that wave them off for the start.
Engines all
there we go,
revving them out.
Yep, they're revving it, and they probably need to have a good clutch control because you can see there it's a hilly start-finish line. We're underway now. Sardini gets a good run here. Villarreal oppositely doesn't. He's going to get eaten up here by Dantas coming to turn 1 unless he can hold the line, because it is a triple left-hander. They call it triple gauche, just like in Spa, but it's much tighter compared to Pujon there. But it looks as though Sardini manages to hold on to it, and so does Villarreal. Dantas in 3rd, Kulhavi 4th, and Lozano manages to make up a position until Bruno De Carmo is going to go at him side by side here. Looks as though the Brazilians are working together to get up to the front.
Evandro Dantas starting P2. He ran a bit wide, though, dropped down to P5, but managed to get back in front of Lozano now. Oh, gang of cars now, 2 by 2, pretty much all the way from P3 down to P8, side by side between Bruno De Carmo and I think that's Lozano, as they're pushing each other now off the track pretty much around the outside. Bruno De Carmo, he's going to try holding it, but I think he's just ran out of road there to make the move, unless, no, I think he's got it there to the inside of Evandro Dantas there.
Yep, and Dantas now will try to hold on to that position because De Carmo, we know how fast he was in qualifying, just wasn't able to convert it to the fastest time. He was further behind some of the fastest guys. We are surprised to still be at the back there, including the likes of Lozano and Dean. Villarreal goes white into that final hairpin as we come up the hill to end the first lap of 14. It's going to pass by so quickly because remember, this is such a short circuit for these cars. It's about 1.5 minutes around every single time. Across the line we go. Kulhavi leads, De Carmo 2nd, Dantas 3rd, and we can see a couple of positions change here, including Sardini getting a bit into the side of Benitez. So they're all off, and Villarreal too in the background, all by himself.
Yeah, Villarreal not having the best of starts. Someone who had a great start, Bruno De Carmo, up 4 positions, already up into P2 and challenging Gaston Kulhavi for the race win. Further behind, Jackson Resende has also made progress in lap 1. Tell you what, I was expecting progress from these guys, but not this quick. It's already lap 2 and they're already fighting for the podium, the top 4, and even the top 5 as we ride on the back of the gearbox of Evandro Dantas, staring down at the man who was on pole. But for now, Jackson Resende cannot find a way past.
And you're talking about gearbox, that little silver thing you see at the back, the components, that is the gearbox. So it's a literal proverb and an actual hypothetical thing when you talk about it. Coming up now between De Carmo and Kulhavi, as we see what happened to Ralph Benitez here. He goes on to the back of Dantas, trying to go for the overtake, and he literally rammed his gearbox. Unfortunately, couldn't get the move right, and he spun out with Sardini. Unfortunately, the unlucky recipient there of a car that was spinning right behind him. And then further behind, we saw, of course, Villarreal a bit of afterwards because he spun by himself. Coming out to the next lap here, lap 3, Bruno De Carmo gets to the front of Gaston Kulhavi with an easy move, with a bit of a slipstream to come through, coming to turn 1, and he takes it. He comes back to the lead here. So he might be blessed with the McLaren colors after all. He might just be able to take this, as we look at Kulhavi in camera right now, fully focused, trying to get back at him, but he's got an armada of Brazilians behind and a Mexican in between for good measure.
Alejandro Dantas just trying to pick off Jackson Rosenda, who was a bit wide there through the previous corner. There's absolutely nothing between these three. It's nose to tail from 3rd place all the way down to 5th here on lap 3 out of 14. But like you mentioned, Bruno De Carmo taking the lead going into turn 1, as now I think that was Alejandro Dantas running wide, as Lozano is gonna sniff blood. He tried to move on the outside, but he just needs to stick by for now. Maybe wait for a straight tuck into the slipstream. He'll have to find out where he's quicker, and then he'll need to make the move quickly to stay with the leaders.
Certainly, and otherwise he will lose touch with them, as you can see, case in point here, coming out of the hairpin, it's Lozano now attacking Dantas, and it looks as though Dantas may not have an answer to this. He didn't get the best of momentums out of there. Lozano did, coming up to turn number 1, as we see a few people asking where is Max. Well, he is actually trying to see if he could win tomorrow's Hungarian Grand Prix, so unfortunately he will not be joining us for any of the AMX races, but let's hope that when there's a free weekend in his calendar, we might see him again, as we saw last season where he was taking part in a few GT3 races. But anyway, back to the present day. This is Lozano now fighting with Dantas and manages to get by here. So now he's going to set his sights on the top 3. Resende, Kulhavi, and De Carmo only about a second ahead of him.
Yeah, Jackson Resende is going to try and pick off Kulhavi. Kulhavi's not really dropped back from Bruno De Carmo, so that's really well from him that he did get the lead early on, but he managed to hold on to it, and now still staying somewhat in touch with the race radar. But he is slowly being put under pressure by our actual pole sitter before the grid was swapped out. Not sure, has it ever been that the pole sitter got back to the race lead for the second reverse grid? Of course, we reversed the grid after this race as well, going into Heat 2.
Yep, and that will fall into the lap of Sardini, but Sardini actually wants to move on right now. He's managed to get by Diego Villarreal. It's as though Villarreal may have actually suffered yet another spin here. So if things stay where they are, they might be on pole position once again, front 2 rows again. If that's the case, that will be a case of things didn't really change much for them. As we see Resende going onto the inside of Kulhavi, that's another case of getting a good run out of that final hairpin onto the start-finish straight, over the crest and into turn number 1 in front. But for how long can Resende keep it? Because it looks as though Resende may not be able to keep that second place, because he had a poor run coming through the second and third corners. Now Kulhavi will try to sneak one on the inside in the other braking zones. Maybe right here, nope, too far behind. While Mauricio Lozano is just hanging back there, waiting for something to happen between these two. And we haven't had those wheel-to-wheel contact logs yet, haven't we, Julian? Otherwise, we'll be talking about a driver flying into space.
Not yet. I'm knock on wood that it does not happen. I do not want to investigate the underbody of a Formula Ford 1600 anytime in the near future. But right now they're being very respectful, keeping well distanced when they're side by side with each other. I'm sure that might come undone towards the end of Heat 2, maybe even end of Heat 1, where you start to become slightly desperate for positions. But for now, they're all behaving very well, so good job, lads, on that. But Bruno De Carmo now leads Jackson Resende gap at 1.4. I think that might be a bit too big for Jackson to catch up there. What would you say, Emily?
Well, let's see if he could do so, if he could keep up the pace. But unfortunately, look at that. De Carmo 4/10 faster that time and has the fastest lap of the race. So that kind of puts that question to bed, isn't it, Julian? Because it looks as though the Carmo has got a bit between his teeth with clear air. Nobody to worry about behind him because he's about 1.5 seconds ahead of his fellow countrymen. The only thing he has to worry about right now is to not get any corner cuts, which seems to be redundant right now at this point because they can use all the road they want, or a slight mistake when there's a lapse of concentration. That could be detrimental to him if he were to lose it now, because so close is the field from 1st to 5th at this point. He doesn't want to have a misstep. So currently right now, still about 1.5 seconds between the first place man between this group. What do you do here if you're in 4th place right now in case of Mauricio Lozano, Julian? What will you do to try and get up to the podium spots?
Well, you've made your way through it. I think at this point you should know where you're strong, but going a bit wide, maybe trying an alternative line there to try and get a better exit. You kind of just want to suss out where you're quicker, but right now it seems like Kulhavi's got very good straight line speed. You want a good run out of here going onto the main straight, but he's not gone at that. In fact, he's gone wider to the gravel, and instead of attack, he's going to have to look in his mirrors as Pedro Dean is going to get past him, and Ivan Tridantis will slowly be catching up, but he's so 2.5 seconds, so that puts that question to bed. He needs to now recompose himself and get back up to them, as there's a slide there for Pedro Dean as Lozano gets back through in the triple gauche, which actually means triple left-hander in French.
Yep, and they call it double gauche in Spa because it is technically a double left-hander, so they still use French over in Belgium, so that's why we get similar names here. Even some corners like the Virage du Pont here is seen at Manicourt, is also seen at Ledenon. But lucky break for Lozano that Dean made the exact same mistake as he did by overstepping the mark slightly coming into a corner, and Lozano gets back his position that he held prior to that, though to his detriment lost about a second to where he was before to Kulhavi. Now he has to regain all of that here.
The gap now 1.8 seconds. He went from being right behind Kulhavi to looking in his mirrors as Pedro Dean. He wants that positions back. He had it for couple hundred of meters, lost it, as he wants it back, and he's pretty much in the same position that Lozano was in just 2 laps ago. But instead of Lozano being the attacker, Pedro Dean is the attacker, trying to suss out where he's quicker, maybe trying to get a good run in the slipstream. Slipstream not too powerful in these Formula Fords, but of course it still helps you when you're within 1 second right up behind him going into turn 1.
Yeah, who needs DRS, right, when you got enough slipstream here from cars that have no slicks or wings for that matter. As you can see, Dean actually is the faster of the 2 drivers that time around, though he just can't find a way by because Lozano is using the exact same line as he is. And as you said, Julian, you tried to do something alternative to the guy in front to see whether or not you can actually get by here. And currently, though, Dean might be exploring some sort of difference, or rather he wants to find where Lozano will make the mistakes, then he can just capitalize. At this point in time, he's just probably eyeing him corner by corner and seeing where he's weak so that he could get by. At this point in time, still even Stevens between the both of them, as a bit of change here in terms of the gaps behind, because Benitez is being chased by Danta, so that's 3 Brazilians in a row chasing up each other. But make no mistake, this is the closest battle we have out on track at this point. 2.5 tenths between Lozano and Dean.
And you were talking about mistakes. I mean, it can also be Pedro Dean trying to force a mistake out of Lozano. Maybe just sending a dummy to the inside so Lozano misses braking zone or something like that. He needs to put him under pressure, as I think he's running out of time. He does seem to have the pace over him, but just not enough pace. He needs a bit more horsepower to get past him, it seems like, or a front wing or a rear wing if he wants to get past anytime soon. He needs to force a mistake or something, because it's very much a one-line track here, running wide and over the curbs. You can't really get past. Now he's close, but in the middle sector, not really an overtaking sector. You've really only got the first and third sector where you got some straights to overtake.
Yep, and some heavy braking zones that punctuate some of the corners here. And I did say earlier, it's a bit like Dijon. The way it looks even looks like the Circuit Dijon Prenois, but not the same flow, unfortunately. So it's more or less a stop-start circuit in some parts, but flowy in others. It's a bit difficult to find your rhythm, and in some cases also it's like the Circuit Jarama in Spain as well, the way that it has the undulations and the gravel tracks on the outside. But like those circuits, you need to actually use the straights here to just get by rather than trying to force someone through the corners. And unfortunately for Dean, he's just now stuck behind a cork, which is Lozano. But crucially though, Lozano's actually not losing touch with Kulhavi either. He has a chance to actually get onto the podium here, Julian.
Yeah, Lozano's called back up to Kulhavi, and I think getting past him will be crucial just so that he's not got any pressure behind him, as that pressure is certainly building Pedrodi closer than ever. But Lozano's also got this slipstream now. Kulhavi must have made a mistake because he was 2 seconds in front, or is that just the pace that Lozano has right now over him? If so, getting past will be huge just so he can have a bit of a mobile chicane or a blockade towards a very feisty looking Pedrodin, as now he's going to try to make the move. He had a good one. He's going to go to the inside, but he's just a bit too far back, and that's going to be a very acute angle coming in from the inside.
Yeah, but you can see there the different lines that he tried, but unfortunately that inside line was covered afterwards by Lozano when he saw the Brazilian coming, though he has another South American in front, and that's the Argentine of Kulhavi. We're on board with him right now. This is actually from a few moments earlier that we saw on the onboard how far behind Kulhavi was Lozano was trying to overtake, but unfortunately just couldn't go through his yet. But Lozano goes wide over the curbs. Can he actually be overtaken here this time? This is the Pedrodin will try to force the issue, and he does manage to make it. That is actually a great maneuver set up from a few corners earlier when Lozano made a slight mistake, and Dean takes full advantage of it.
Exactly what we were talking about. You're going to try different lines. Focus if you want to overtake. Oh, but now has a snap of overstick. And he's done exactly what he did just a few laps ago, but not going into the gravel. But that's going to hurt his run all the way down the main straight, as now Lozano's tucked in to the slipstream. Will he have a look towards turn 1? No, he just manages to stay in front, but that was real touch and go for a second, wasn't it, on mute?
That was Julian, and luckily though he managed to keep it together there. Plus, you can see that first corner he was skating so much. Again, that's how he lost the position to Kulhavi to begin with when he overtook him out of the final corner. Though this time, however, he manages to make it stick, and now he sets his sights on the podium, and crucially though for his country, a triple threat at the front. 3 Brazilians in that top 3. That would be a great day for them if Dean can pull it off, but he still has Gaston Kulhavi, who's actually not the easiest guy to overtake, that's for sure. He will defend you for every single room that he could get, as right now he's soaked up all the pressure he's had from Lozano. Now he has Dean for company.
Yeah, I mean, name 2 bigger countries with a big rivalship between each other in sports, Argentina and Brazil. In motor racing, in football, you name it, these 2 have been battling it out, and Kulhavi's not willing to let go of that podium spot anytime soon. Lap 11 out of 14, 3 to go in the next lap. But he's really close behind him now, and if he gets a good run up the hill, it's all about getting that nice run up the hill down the main straight. As you mentioned very early on, it is a very hilly main straight, but it seems like there's a rather equal gap between all 3 of them right now, just snailing each other away. But that was a great run through turn 1, through the first part of the triple gauche for Pedro Dean. He's really trying to maybe go in for a later apex. He's doing Formula Drift right now, it seems like, instead of Formula Ford 1600.
Yep, and lucky the word Formula there does tie in quite well, but it's not a sort of car you want to actually go sideways, because remember all the weight's to the rear, so once that car snaps out of you, it will really snap out of you out of control. Plus the semi-slicks did not help his cause, so Dean then on a tightrope at the moment trying to get to the back of Kulhavi. Likewise though, he is looking behind Lozano, who wants to get back that position after such a brilliant overtake that was done by Dean to get up to P4. And look who's joining the party as well. It's Ralph Benitez. We had that 4 cam just now. We saw Benitez at the very bottom there. He was about a second behind. Now he's under a second here, with all 3 now make that 4 within earshot here. And this is amazingly for the fight for the podium with just 3 laps to go here, Julian.
It's anyone's game right now. One mistake from Kulhavi, Pedro Dean or anyone. And like you mentioned, Benitez, he's there now. If I don't know, Colabi has a slide of oversteer which compromised the guys behind him, and he did have a great exit there. Wheel banging, luckily not wheel locking, but look at this. Instead, Pedro D was so close to making the overtake there, but instead he's got to look behind him now, maybe to the inside, going into turn one sideways. So that may be a bit too aggressive on the steering wheel. He's had a slide, and there it is, the inevitable bang, and moving into fourth is Benitez. Ooh.
Oh dearie me, and you saw just now the wheels interlock for a second, but luckily there was bodywork to bodywork contact. Now unfortunately for both Dean and Lozano, what was a fight for the podium has actually gone to naught. But for the Brazilian contingent, at least there's another guy up there, and that's Ralph Benitez now chasing after Gaston Kohavi. If you are Gaston Kohavi soaking up all the pressure, that's the sort of driver you want in your team, or you want to have as your own personal self-confidence, because that was so much pressure that he had to absorb, but mercifully he can still hang on to it, and he still has about 2 laps to go here. But battle's done over. Benitez will now be licking his lips here, setting his sights on a podium to make it Brazilian 1, 2, 3.
I mean, wow, Colavi, the pressure, Pedro Dean on the left, and Lozano to the right. Not the easiest thing. Who do you defend? They make contact going into turn one, but he's got another Brazilian behind him. It's almost like tag teaming these guys. You go through now, you get to attack him now, as he's only got 1 lap. As there you see picture the incident then, as Lozano tried to make the he just took the normal racing line, but then it was a snap of oversteer there from Pedro Dean, contact hitting Lozano off into the gravel, as both of them coming off second best, but Kohlhavi still holding on for dear life for that podium position.
Indeed, and I don't fault Pedro Dean for that one, because he did try to overtake on the inside. He had the line, but unfortunately the car went too fast and escaped it into the side of Lozano, taking both of them out. But that's in the past. In the present time right now, this is Kohlhavi and Benitez still going at it side by side. This is probably the most amount of pressure that Kohlhavi has ever had to absorb throughout the entire race, because he can see how close Benitez is compared to when we saw Dean, Lozano right behind. Meanwhile, battle for P1 was very close. We didn't really see much of that because the Kama Resende have been doing their own race, but it looks as though Resende has managed to claw back a bit of gap here, coming to the final sector. 2 different battles, but crucially though, all for the podium. First and second, third and fourth, within under 5/10 of each other here. Coming into the final sector now between the Carmo and Resende. It looks as though if the Carmo can actually hold on to it, this will be a very fine win indeed. He does so. Resende couldn't give an answer to that one. So Bruno Carmo comes out of the final corner and takes victory here. He takes off the McLaren hoodie actually, so it might still count as a win with the blessing of Tony Kanaan and the colors of McLaren, as well as the Ayrton Senna gloves, might we add. That's very good. Numero uno indeed. As across the start finish line, Kohlhavi managed to hang on to P3 just in front of Benitez by a 0.2 of a second. Well done here. I will give you a clap as well there, Bruno, because that was a well-timed race all the way to the end. But Julian, what an amazing first race.
Wow, what an ending. Tell you what, those last 3 laps felt like they were 13 laps, or even the entire race. First, the contact between Lozano and Pedro Dean there, going into turn 1. Then, out of all of a sudden, Jackson Resende, he killed the gap to Bruno De Carmo. It was 1.5 consistently ever since he got to P2. All of a sudden, it's 3-4 tenths, and we're looking at a battle for first and a battle for the podium. But in the end, it all stayed squared, with Bruno De Carmo coming out on top, Resende and Kohlhavi holding on and soaking up the pressure, as well as a sponge soaks up water. That's probably not my finest metaphor ever, but it will do tonight. I
mean, any metaphor would do to describe how cool and calm Kohlhavi was to absorb the pressure. Likewise, though, at the front, Bruno De Carmo was cool as a cucumber all the way to the end, and, well, looks as though it took a lot out of him, actually, because he was absolutely emotional with that one, with the Ayrton Senna gloves as well, might we add, to be happy with a BenQ session win here in race 29 of AMX 5 by just 0.3 in front of Jackson Resende, with Gaston Kohlhavi completing a South American podium, the Argentine third by 9.7 seconds behind the winner. Benitez fourth, a further 2/10, he could have gotten it there, but again, Kohlhavi just absorbed it so well. Lozano, Dean, Dantas, Tardini, and Villarreal round out your finishes here for this first heat. Now, we get into the second heat almost immediately, and for the likes of Bruno De Carmo, who had that intense first race, it's no rest for the wicked, isn't it, Julian?
Absolutely not, and especially if we pick up where we left off, this is going to be almost an endurance race. It is underway now, right away. On in the front is Diego Villarreal, who's not had the best of Heat 1. Can he make up for it? He leads us away. In front of him, Sardini and Pedro Dean then, and Evandro Dantas. So already the midfield is littered with Brazilians as to the inside goes. I think that's Benitez on Evandro Dantas, looking to move up a spot right away as the guys at the back who were leading looking to make up their positions rather quickly. There's a bit of smoke there. I think did someone spin or something? I think you called that.
Villarreal. Yeah, it's Villarreal actually. Unfortunately, yeah, as you said, he was trying to make amends for that rather disappointing first heat. Looks as though second heat didn't get off to even better start here. He has half spun it. Luckily, he didn't get collected by the rest of the field, but he's right at back once again. So not the best of days here for the Uruguayan, as we are watching now the rest of the field stream by. All drivers here still in earshot of each other. That's nice to see. A train of drivers. Let's hope we can keep this up throughout the entire race, because we had such a good end to that first heat. But in front is Pedro Dean, in front of Sardini and Dantas. That's your top three. Benitez has made it up to fourth once again, and let's see if Benitez can convert that into a proper podium after such a close battle that he had earlier with Gaston Kohavi. Kohavi is in 8th, by the way. Coming to the first lap, into the hairpin, up the hill to the start-finish straight. It might feel like an eternity with these cars, as you can catch up of the live timing on the side here. You can scan the QR code to see how your drivers are doing on the circuit. As meanwhile, we're going to go 3 wide into turn number 1. This is going to be ending in tears for some, but it looks as though Benitez manages to actually get it around the outside. With inside there is Jackson Resende.
Jackson Resende once again, just like in Heat 1, absolutely electric start. Already up to P4, moving up 4 positions from second. Last Villarreal 4 star. Maybe I put the commentator's curse on him a bit too early, but now Zanini and Lozano side by side. They're still snailing away nose to tail as someone was going rather slow. I'm not sure that was Kohavi having a problem or another problem for Villarreal. But Evandro Dantas then in P2, being put under pressure from Benitez behind Jackson Resende, not too far. But for now, Pedro Dean has got a healthy 6/10 gap. He just needs to keep it there, because you need to be within 3/10. Running wide though, I think that was Jackson Resende, our pole sitter from qualifying, who is now being overtaken by Bruno De Carmo. These guys were fighting in Heat 1. Running wide though, Bruno De Carmo. It's the switchback from Jackson Resende from right to left. That's a clean and satisfying overtake.
Or rather a clean defense, of course, because he just let De Carmo take the position, but he went a bit too wide and just retake it. So beautiful bit of defending there from Resende, but he has to do a bit more now, because De Carmo got a good run out of the hairpin onto the start-finish straight. We see Evandro Dantas. Looks as though he was actually going into the pit lane rather than the start-finish straight that time around. He's going to fall all the way to the back with Villarreal overtaking him. Meanwhile, back to that battle for third now between Resende and De Carmo. De Carmo actually goes in the inside. Resende gets a bit out of shape into turn number 1, 2, and then 3, because it's a triple left-hander. And De Carmo goes out to P3 now, Julian. But battle's still over, because it's quite close between him and Mauricio Lozano into the mix as well.
Oh, we really did pick off where we left off with Resende and Carmo battling away side by side. There's what happened with Evandro Dantas. That forced him to go into the pit lane. Oh, he didn't want to go in the pit lane. He just got sucked by the gravel, and then the grass as misses the signs. Just a bit of lawn mowing, a bit of community work done. Love to see that. But still, Jackson Resende behind Bruno De Carmo, as now it's a 1 second lead that Pedro Dean has. His race came undone very late on in Heat 1, as he's really making amends for it, isn't he, Amir?
Yes, indeed, Jack. Julian with De Carmo then still holding on to that place for Resende. The thing is, we're talking about drivers trying to make amends for their position. Dantas probably will not be able to do so, and so does Villarreal. They're falling a bit behind with the rest of the field. Sardini as well, who was involved in that little collision between Lozano and Pedro Dean. He is going to be also fired up right now to at least get up to that top 5. He's about 2.6 seconds behind Kulhavi. Coming up now to turn number 1. Let's see if that dive bomb incoming that someone put onto the comment section is going to happen. No, it doesn't. Through that triple left-hander, it looks as though Bruno De Carmo hangs on to P3 right now. It's a bit of a role reversal. Well, not complete role reversal from what happened in race number 1. They are still fighting for podium place, but not for the race win.
But the stake is just the exact same. Checks to Resende. You can see his reaction there. You tell what went through his head right there. I need more power. Just not getting the exit he needs with Bruno De Carmo running wide. And I must say, Bruno De Carmo's got an absolutely lovely mustache. Well jealous of that one. But it's not really helping him as he's still being put under pressure. The top four have been closing in. Benitez closed up to Benitez cap at 9/10 there. Oh, sorry, Benitez closing up to Dean. Gap now at 1 second. Bruno De Carmo is looking to make that move as well. So it's not done in lap 4 out of 14. We still have 10 banging racing laps left to go.
Yeah, it all goes by so fast, isn't it? Again, a short track with these kind of cars that they can lap at least under 90 seconds, or rather just above 90 seconds, makes it feel like it goes by so quickly, but it really does, isn't it, when these cars are highly tuckable. And it's such close competition minus the aero because it's about clean air being used right now. And speaking of air, that's Resende right up to the back of Bruno De Carmo with Ralph Benitez up in front of them. This is De Carmo actually looking up to Benitez. Coming up to the first couple of turns, it's still a Brazilian 1, 2, 3, 4. Amazingly, despite out of all of that, we're still looking at De Carmo trying to go after Benitez. Can he switch it back against his teammate? Is his teammate and teammate? No, he's actually gotten a slow penalty because he cut the track too many.
That's such a shame. He was really lining up. That's what we were talking about in Heat 1. Alternative lines. He lined it up right to left, left to right, but then just cutting the corner a bit too much. We've seen them pushing their luck and track limits all throughout, and it's hit now. Bruno De Carmo, who's lost out. Jackson Resende must be absolutely loving it, who's now left to fight with Benitez. It is now a all top 3 Brazilian with the Mexican Lozano holding on to that P4. Can he maybe steal a podium here off Resende or Benitez once Resende overtakes him?
Well, the reaction from the Twitch chat there from Poco Prata, who's also joined us on YouTube, so they're watching it on both platforms that we're streaming live right now. Not like this. Absolutely, is just not the way that we wanted to see. But all is not lost for De Carmo. He's in fact still within sight of the leader. In fact, Pedro Dean still not that far away. About just say 2.1 seconds now, the difference between Dean, Benitez, Resende, Lozano, and De Carmo. So all is not lost, but that is a bit of a setback here, Julian.
Absolutely, he's going to have to do all that work that he did at the start of the race, fighting through the grid all again. He only needs to get past Lozano, and he's back in P4. But saying only getting past Lozano, I mean, we saw that he's a great defensive and attacking driver in Heat 1, and he won't be letting that off this P4 anytime shortly. But he'll have to make the overtake soon so he can get back up to Resende and Benitez, as you got to stick around for a lap just to get in your rhythm and feel around in the dirt. Yeah, see where you're stronger and quicker. Maybe you're better on braking or accelerating. Really sliding through. I think he's driving with a bit of anger now, Amir.
Yeah, indeed. And imagine if he actually manages to pull this one off a double. That'd be a really great way to do so. And he could get that done now by getting on the inside of Mauricio Lozano. And he makes it stick. What a dive. That actually was a planned move from the beginning. What a move. And I can hear you crashing there, Julian. That was an amazing one.
Absolutely amazing. He now needs to get back in his rhythm. Then he's got just over 9.5 tenths to Resende. He's pretty much now racing the pace of Benitez, though, as Resende might be being held back a bit. He has been behind him for a long time, just trying to make that move. I think he's got the same problem that Pedro Dean had on Lozano at the end of Heat 1, just probably getting a bit frustrated. He can't find a way by. He sees the leaders right there in front of his nose, but he just can't get past. And you must say, Benitez is doing just as well as a job that Kulhavi did in Heat 1, just soaking up all the pressure.
Indeed, Julian, and the fact that he's not doing that much as well into the defense, he's just planting the car in the right places, getting on throttle as soon as he could, not stepping out the car too much is just enough to hold Resende back to also De Carmo. As we can see what happened to Gerard Sardini, and it looks as though that's all on his own coming through turn number 1. Mercifully, he didn't get taken out there by looks of it, Villarreal and Dantas coming through that. So that's why Sarani is about 8 seconds behind them in that particular battle for not getting the wooden spoon. But back up now to the battle between P2 and P3. This is Benitez and Resende. That's desperation now etched on the pace of Resende because he wants to get by. He knows that Dean is not that far away, but he's got this obstacle that's almost impenetrable to get by. But he knows full well that if he gets a good run now, he might just be able to do so. Looks as though he might just be able to do so here if he could get it up to turn 1, Julian.
Yep, and he's real close to him. It's pretty much unstoppable force versus impenetrable object between these two. Benitez, really the Brazilian Minister of Defense versus the Brazilian the Brazilian Minister of Attack. Neither of them giving it up as they go. You have the helicam, and you can just see how close it is, how close Resende gets to the gearbox. He can practically do the shifting for Benitez in the braking zones.
Well, we can say the Brazilian Special Forces then, if he could try to break through that barrier. But for the time being, is the Minister of Defense who's actually come out on top, with Benitez still having the better of Resende. But despite both of them battling, look at the gap between first and second. It's only about half a second between Dean and Benitez, so it could become a three-way battle pretty soon. So the Halicam might be focused on second and third, but if you look further in front, it is not that far away either between them and and Dean.
Yeah, and I just want to point out Jackson Resende, pole position, P2 in Heat 1, and he's not too far off P2 in Heat 2, so he's had a heck of a evening so far. If he can keep his podium or top 3 streak alive, he's just missing DRS, extra power, a bit of ERS maybe. He needs to find some. It's what we talked about in Heat 1. You got to try something different. It's not working out for him. He's just been analyzing the back of a Formula 4 1600 for the past 8 laps or so. He needs to try something different, and I think now he has, because it seems like he's closer than ever through this section.
Yep, indeed. And in fact, that they're even closer to Dean now, if anything, with the Carmo only just under a second behind them. So it's going to be a very close top 4 after this. And someone's asking what kind of helicopter are we using for the helicams. Yeah, I mean, a Bell Huey might just work out there, though all the modern helicopters may be much faster and more reliable than a Bell Huey. But anyway, aviation geekery aside, we are going to go back to the action here between Resende and Benitez. It looks as though Resende might just be able to sneak one out on the inside here, but no. Benitez thinks about the same line as he is, and he himself also will try to pull a move on Dean.
Yeah, Benitez in a very tricky situation right now. He can go for the overtake on Pedro Dean if he's close enough, but he does not want to get caught up in it and let Jackson Resende as onto the main straight. There you go. Bruno de Carmo's not really reeling in, as he's still a second of give or take. P4 still not a bad finish after a slowdown penalty, but he'll be kicking himself in the foot when he'll see that he should be in P3 right now, but he lost it. Jackson Resende has claimed that spot for now, still trying to make a move. You can't tell, he is trying something different, trying just to get on the throttle a tad bit earlier, running it further out wide, braking later. He is pushing, he's practically doing qualifying laps here.
Yep, and the fact that he also has an extra helping slipstream, so at least he can still maintain the gap that he has up to the guys in front. But ultimately, it's just an exercise in frustration that he's just not been able to get by his fellow countryman up in front here, with another countryman right behind also just chasing. Okay, the gaps have been flowing though, but the moment these three will start fighting, it's going to be a 4-way battle between Brazilians up in front for the win in heat number 2. That will be a tantalizing prospect here. But for the time being, we're on board with Benitez, 0.4 of a second behind Dean, and looks as though he's been able to keep the back of him. Meanwhile, Resende nearly whacks the back of Benitez there coming into turn number 11. That was really close to coming to tears.
I mean, such fine margins in Circuit de Ledenon. As now, finally, Jackson Resende, can he break through the deadlock of Benitez? I think he does, to the inside of turn 1, just keep your car pointing the right way, and you'll be good to go to set after the lead. And he's done it. After 10 laps, he's gotten the run out of the final corner that he needed. I mean, to make the move into turn 1. Now he's going to set up after the lead. I don't think it's too late for him. What would you say? Can he get the lead?
He can, Julian, but again, if he was able to do pressure like that on Resende, on Benitez for almost 10 laps, he could do the same thing to Dean, but in less time though. Can he actually get that? Unless, of course, he could dump himself into the grabber trap like that. That's just using all the road and then some to get up to the back of Dean. But again, it's just not enough to get by just yet. Though Dean has managed to stabilize the gap between himself and Resende to about that 5/10 range. As meanwhile, 2 tenths behind Benitez is the Carmo, and he's ready to do the same thing like what Resende did.
Exactly what you said. These guys start fighting, and they've sent an invitation letter to Bruno De Carmo, who's right up behind Benitez now. But problem is, Resende, he's not got as much time as he had with Benitez. Like you said, he's only got 3 laps, give or take, but he's already caught back up to him. It's just going to take a while to suss out where he's throwing. I think we will see another move towards 10 well. Bruno De Carmo, tell you what, driving so far, absolutely incredible. Bruno De Carmo and Jackson Resende. Jackson Resende is right behind Pedro Dean. Bruno De Carmo is right behind Benitez. Both of these guys looking to make the move. One is for the podium, one is for the race lead. Who's going to get it is a mighty fine. Anyone can even win this race. Everything's open to play.
Indeed. 3 laps to go here with a 4-way fight for the win. Can you imagine that at the start of the race? We thought it was going to be a bit more spread up, but thankfully though, the gap is close and it's between 4 Brazilians up in front. It looks as though Dean is going to relinquish that lead to Resende. He made a bit of a slight mistake coming out of that corner, slightly slower compared to Resende, but managed to hold off. But for how long? Because Resende is getting a little bit antsy here. He wants to get by for the lead, and that's a good run coming out of turn number 10 into 11. Can he make it around the outside? Does he have the run through? He looks as though he might be able to, but Dean has the line. As you can see, the Carmo goes on the inside. The Carmo takes the P3 away.
Yeah, he saw the opportunity. Benitez was stuck behind these two fighting, but what a move by Jackson Resende. They're still side by side. No one's giving it up, neither giving an inch. Can maybe Carmo get a nice run out of it? And he might just thread the needle in between the man who got that slowdown penalty, looking to make the move. He'll just have this to happen now. But he's got this slipstream of Resende. They're still side by side after pretty much 2 seconds. No one's giving it up. The Hot Wheels car of Pedro Dean still on the inside. Jackson Resende is going to try holding it to the outside. Has Pedro Dean got it? No, Resende's still there. As now Resende will have the inside line. As look at Bruno De Carmo now. He tried to switch back left to right. No one's giving it up. Now he's gone to the inside. He's got that move. Can he even go for the lead? This is absolutely incredible racing by Bruno De Carmo from 4th, maybe up to 1st in just 1 lap. He's on the outside. Maybe he'll try to switch back right to left. He runs a bit wide, but I think he's got P2 secured. Yes, he does, but he's going for the lead. Lap 13 out of 14. This is more high octane than the previous heat.
Oh wow, what a race that we had so far, and that was edge of your seat stuff. You didn't know who's it gonna go to. Was it Dean? Was it the Carmo? Was it the Resende? It could have been Benitez as well. But it looks as though the top 2 protagonists have revealed themselves, and it's the Resende and the Carmo. This race is definitely on fire right now. We still have 1 more lap to go after this to decide who's gonna win it. And what happened to... Oh no! What's happened to Pedro Dean? It looks as though he might have been disconnection issues because he's dropped all the way to P6, so that's the podium pretty much settled. But Pedro Dean, who was fighting so well with Ralph Benitez at one point, has to concede that particular fight. But now we're going to go into the final lap here between Resende and the Carmo. Can we actually get a good fight coming to the final lap? Here we go then. On the outside is the Carmo, on the inside is Resende. Can he make it stake here? It looks as though Resende may have held the car just enough to hold on to the lead. But look at the arm control between both of these guys, and you can see hand and head for some of the Brazilian commenters. As on the inside goes the Carmo. He might be able to pull it off here coming into turn number 4. Can he make it stake? Side by side they go. And the Resende goes off the racetrack. Can he keep it together? Yes, he does. They still go at it side by side here. Coming up to turn number 5. Oh, with We thought that it's going to be an intense final lap, but we didn't know it could be this intense. As we see what happened to Pedro Dean when he was trying to go on the inside of Ralph Benitez. It looks as though he might have actually slid it on his own. Oh no! He went too narrow and just slipped out. Unfortunately for him, that is all she wrote for his fight on the podium. But back into the real world here. Back into real time here is Resende, the Carmo, Benitez are fighting it out. Resende goes a bit wide coming out to turn 10. Looks as though it might have been intentional. This is a real great fight for the Brazilian battle up in front. But the Carmo, if he did not have that slow penalty, he would have been able to get by Resende, or at least challenging for one more lap. It's going to be a drag race to the line. Resende, the Carmo, 0.2 of a second across the line here. And we saw last week, Resende missed out on a win at Interlagos because of a slipstream battle with Gablero. This time, he beats the Carmo to the line, a fellow Brazilian, all the way to the finish here by 0.3 of a second in front of him, and then Benitez in third, fourth Lozano, fifth Kulhavi, sixth Pedro Dean will be disappointed, seventh will be Dantas, he'll take a while to cross the line, eighth Villarreal, and ninth Sardini, and finally we can pull off that quote from Galvao Bueno, Jackson Rosende do Brasil. A brilliant win here against all odds, against the Carmo, with an astonishing final couple of laps here, Julian.
Wow. I'll be watching those final 4 laps over and over again. That was absolutely incredible. You really couldn't tell who it was going to win. For most of the race, it seemed like Pedro Dean. Then lap 12, 13, Jackson Resende. Then the final lap, side by side. It could have been anyone. They could have come together. But they have your session winner.
Yep. Well, a truly deserved thank you session winner for Jackson Resende. Bruno Carmo 3/10 away from making it a double here, and he will rue that penalty that he had earlier. Otherwise, he would have had a much closer finish. Resende, but Resende avenges his last gasp defeat that he had to Gablero by winning it by just 3/10 in front of the Carmo. Benitez, Lozano, and Kulhavi, your top 5. Then Dean, he would be disappointed with that spin. He could have been on the podium as well. Dantas, Villarreal, and then Sardini. Both of those guys were at the back throughout the entire race. But either way, that's it for AMX5 Race 29. And we come back on cam now. Well, Julian, I don't know what to say, but actually, in fact, we might have missed out Julian. He kind of missed the memo here to stay in his seat. That's a first. We never had anyone come out of there, but really, I'm almost out of breath, and we're only in the first race of 2 here for today to start this one, and I think we might just go straight ahead to preparations for the next race here, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after a short intermission here from our sponsors. In fact, we'll go for the interview as well, so didn't really quite catch that in my ear. In fact, we're gonna get a quick one with Bruno De Carmo to see how he, from his point of view, how it was like to participate in that race. So we'll wait and see until he comes in and do a quick one with him. So still taking a while. I think he's still quite psyched after that final last gas fight with Jackson. In fact, we finally get him on board here. Now we will start the interview with Bruno De Carmo. And Bruno, hopefully you can hear us.
Loud and clear.
Okay, thank you, Bruno. By the way, nice Ayrton Senna gloves. That was a really nice touch as well, and you were very happy with that one. So take us through what it was like to actually come through the field in that first one, because you were really quite psyched up, and it was quite an intense battle that you had with Jackson.
Yeah, well, hello everyone. Nice to be here again at the podium. Now I'm really happy. If you guys remember the previous race, I was not that happy with the podium, with the incident, but now it was a perfect race. I would say perfect battles, clean with everyone. What a fun car, mate. That was a really good choice by you guys to pick this car for this track. It was amazing. And yeah, I would. I think we all had to take really good care because the cold tires was really tough at the start of the race, and yeah, it was. I bet from the outside it was a incredible race to watch, and the Ayrton Senna gloves it was a gift from Tony Canan, my boss. 210s. He gave me a 210s almost.
Indeed.
Faster.
And that was the extra 210s that you needed to beat Jackson in that first race. And nice little touch there with the Canaan Avenue, I think, because that's a reference to St. Petersburg that he won there before. But so that was the first race. But in that second race, that penalty actually was quite costly, wasn't it? What really happened there? Because we could see that everyone could cut the corner a bit, but it looks as though you managed to trigger the penalty system.
Yeah, the off track is it's kind of far, and we kind of have to give it a shot and always try to go in the limit of the slowdown. I think I passed a little bit and I had to pay slow down, but happy for me, it was only 2 positions that I lost. I could take out the slowdown pretty quick, and I didn't lost that much, so it was pretty fun, mate. I'm so tired, I have to say. This car is so difficult.
In fact, I think from that first race we saw you on camera, you were actually rubbing your eyes a bit because it looked quite intense, wasn't it? But nothing can compare to that intensity in that final 2 laps, especially with you, with Ralph, with Jackson, and then Pedro at one point, really battling it for first place. So take us through what it was like mentally to get through there. Was it really scary, or was it just absolutely exciting?
No, the scary part was only the first race. The second race, it's visor down and keep your head down, and we every time we go a little bit aggressive, and the last lap was we all giving out. Unfortunately, Pedro lost the rear, and it was pretty fun battle between us 4, and Jackson was amazing on the outside, and I couldn't overtake him. So congrats to him, really good win, and let's go to the GT4.
Indeed, around the Hockenheimring. So fantastic, parabéns, and we'll see you for that one.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
So then, okay, we finally got Julian back into the hot seat. So, Julian, I think we're a bit out of breath. We saw Bruno as well. He was absolutely spent after that one, and he still has one more race to do after this. But what was your takeaway from this one around Ledenon?
It must be something that I've stood by for a while now. It's that low power, less horsepower cars produce better racing than Formula 1 cars. I mean, it's such fine margins with those cars. A bit too much curb, you spin out, brake a bit too late, you end up in the gravel. Fine margins, but we saw nose to tail racing, especially in Heat 2, which was fantastic to watch.
Indeed, and going from Bruno Carmo's words, he did say just now that he knew that there was plenty of road around the outside to take it, because again, the low power cars, no aero, you can just slide it out. But I think he found the track warning a bit too much there, and he had to back off. Maybe he could have won this, maybe he could have kept it close with Jackson, who knows. But a brilliant car and track combo, and can't wait to see after this that we see a proper Grand Prix circuit from your home country and in GT4 cars. So that's gonna be up next after this. Yes, smiling year to year, we'll get to see a lot of Deutschland quotes over there. But before that, there's our socials at the bottom, from Instagram, Twitch, X, formerly known as Twitter, Discord, live on YouTube and Twitch, of course. You can sign up to race at amxrace.com, and for a lot of short form content, it will be posted on both TikTok and on Instagram. But don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after a short intermission from our sponsors, and we'll be heading straight to race 30 of the AMX of AMX5 after this. But don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
To save our home, we must travel through the gateway to find new energy.
We go racing for heat number 1 here in Austria. Over AMX 20 in towards the Mickey Lauda curve, bumping and banging and into the wall. That is a horrible crash. That's a huge lunge from Gaston Calvi, and he's made contact with, I believe, oh wow, it's a chaotic moment here. And slipstream in front for either car, and you can just see Petrazova pushing Florian Lebigra right over.
Here we go then. Valeri, he looks left, he looks right. He's going to choose the right hand side, which is the inside going into 10-3.
Here it is. This is the crucial moment in this race. And it's looking like it's only going one way. David Dott is going to take the race lead. Heading into the second half of the season, the Hungarian of David Dott has driven a masterclass here with the early pit stop. Not the ideal strategy, but an ideal race winner and an excellent performance.
Miranda Petrazuma into the wall.
It's actually Valero. Valero's actually gone up into the barriers, coming up to the cutting.
David Todd making his way back up has already climbed 7 positions.
Oh, it's supposed to soon there. Sende goes up.
So right now, this is going to be where it's going to get shaken up. David Todd passes them while they are in the pit through the mountain straight now, going 3 wide.
Oh my word, that is probably one of the best shows of the entire season.
So we have 3-way battle going to the most dangerous turn of the mountain. Up the mountain, we have contact right there. These guys going absolutely crazy. It's going to come down to the final corner, Murray's corner. Who is going to have to lead? We may have a drag race to the finish line on our hands, folks. You see David Todd right now going into the pit lane.
into the carousel immediately. He gets punted off. That was Saavedra. Aguilar, he's gone off. He's been tapped and he's into the barriers. Oh, the rejoin. Oh,
and
no.
Dean. Oh, Pedro, Dean.
Oh, Chris Lalum does have the inside track for the Swiss left. If he's able to make that pass happen, he might be able to cut away Victorino. He does make that pass, and he makes it clean as they come into the right hand. And this is it. Chris Lalum seizes the opportunity and makes it. And just as the end, the rain comes to put a pin onto the end of the race, and Chris Lalum takes it.
All right, from southern France to southwest of Germany, here we are in the region of Baden-Württemberg. This is the Hockenheimring, a legendary circuit that has still maintained some of its character despite the modernization. But we also are accompanied with a class of cars that definitely accompanies the circuit quite well. It's the GT4 Class here, race 30 of AMX 5. Welcome along then. For me, I'm here alongside me is Julian. And I think you're smiling ear to ear, Julian, because you're basically at your home track, isn't it?
It is very excited to commentate here. I've never commentated here before. Very excited, you can probably tell. Absolutely buzzing, and a great car like you mentioned. Just can't wait to get racing.
Absolutely. As you can see, there's our title sponsors at the bottom, and of course partnership with the Korean Auto Racing Association, FIA ASN, who also handle our stewarding. Exhilarating, BenQ and Automatics here are part of the sponsorship partners here for AMX. Now, we will get into the nitty-gritty of it. There we go. This is about to point out our socials at the bottom: Instagram, Twitch, X formerly Twitter, Discord, YouTube, amxrace.com on the website, and short form content on TikTok. So that will be keeping in mind where you want to catch up with all the drivers, or where you want to actually watch live as it happens. But now we get into the small detail stuff first before we get into the track and car combo. So without further ado, let's get into the housekeeping. First up, we have the overview of the AMX Sim Racing World Championship Season 5, which has started since May the 25th, and it will end in a couple of weeks' time, or rather 3 weeks' time here, from here on out, all the way to August 18th. Season prize pool of $15,000 and next level racing gear up for grabs, with races held in most races held in on a variety of car and track combos. We of course have used the Hockenheimring quite a few times, but sometimes on the short national circuit. Now we get on the full one. Race format for AMX5, 20-minute qualifier. Then we flip the script on its head, where the top 15 gets reversed. Do a heat 1 of 20 minutes, and then that result from that one also gets reversed for the top 15 for heat number 2, which also runs for 20 minutes, with prizes for every standing, same for every session. And here's the other part of the overview, where driving cams are required now, as has been mandatory for the past couple of seasons. You can join via the link on AMX Discord or the website, with balances of about $100 paid out each month. So those who get about $100, they get paid in their prize money. With races happening on Saturday, Sunday, you can sign up anytime to race at amxrace.com. And the schedule, as we mentioned before, this is on the alternate weekends. So this particular week, it's just about all AMX 5 races, if schedule is permitting. Yep, no, in fact, this is the other alternate week. We have AMX 5 on a Saturday for both races, and then AMX 0 and AMX 20 on a Sunday. So we're on the right-hand side of the schedule as opposed to the left. 5:50 p.m. on GMT, and then 7:20 p.m. GMT for the second AMX race. So anyone who wants to catch on it right now, they will join here for this one. As mentioned, the prize pool earlier from the first part of the overview, it is the same for all the sessions, but with a few extras. Especially there's $2 extra for fastest lap in both of the races, and the top 15 get reversed, with $15 for the fastest time in qualifying, $15 for finishing first in heat 1, and $15 for heat number 2. Minimum road rating of 2,000, so we could get some really competent drivers here if they pass this particular criterion, and a total prize pool of about $250 per race. And what's on offer, as per the start of the broadcast we saw just now, next level racing equipment up for grabs, and this is what is at stake for those who are competing in AMX5: a GT Elite wheel plate edition rig with an ERS3 reclining seat. So if you like your racing very hardcore but you still want a bit of ergonomics, this is the sort of prize you want to aim for if you're in AMX5. So without further ado, let's get on to the home ground action for Julian in this particular case, with the circuit and track combo. Julian, take it away.
Well, we're in the Rhine Valley in Baden-Württemberg, as you mentioned. The Hockenheimring, a staple when it comes to German motorsport. First opened in 1932 with the alternative track layout. It's seen some modifications back in 2001. It's got a track length of just under 4.6 kilometers with some great overtaking spots. It's located in Hockenheim.
Yep, and as we mentioned, the Rhine Valley just up the road from the city of Baden-Württemberg. In fact, the circuit used to be a street circuit that headed into the town, but now the Tricky Triangle, as it was called, has been turned into a permanent racing facility. And now the cars, Julian.
Well, we're racing in another staple of motorsport, the GT4s. Absolute beast, these things. Unlike their older brother, the GT3s, these have got between 350 and 500 horsepower, rear-wheel drive, with the weight being between 1,300 and 1,400 kilos, and these drivers will be using those clicky paddle shifters for their gearbox and racing. This track and car combo is, you can't get more classical when it comes to motorsport track and car combinations.
Absolutely, given the fact that the GT4 class has been around for well over a decade, and in Germany especially, given the fact that we have the ADAC GT series and its own GT4 championship, it is quite a common staple in racing Europe. So glad to see that iRacing has most of the models that are racing here, especially on screen right now. We have the Aston Martin, we had a Mercedes at one point, then the McLarens and BMWs of course, but judging by the live timing, it looks as though it's quite eclectic, but the Porsche and the Mercedes seems to be the popular pack. But either way, balance of performance of course applied to these cars, so we should get very even racing as we are now going to head to qualifying very soon here, as we are reaching close to the halfway point. Now we're entering qualifying out of the final corner, and guess who are we on board with? It was the driver who kind of unfortunately dropped it in the final couple of laps. It's Pedro Dean, looking to make amends immediately, qualifying in the GT4 class, and he's fastest right now, Julian.
He is fastest, just went through the Nord cover there, and there's some great overtaking spots around here. Currently on provisional pole he's got Ralph Benitez not too far off. He is driving in the Aston Martin, so it's a British car, but he just had a massive snap of oversteer there, coming onto the parabolica, maybe pushing a bit through. Just over 8 minutes of this session has been done. We're about to get the timing sheets up, where the live timing is there on the QR code, so go ahead and scan that so you can follow along with the sector times and the lap times. I mean, there you go, Resende P2 picking up where he left off. Same thing with Kulhavi, but Pedro Dean sold 3/10 clear of Jackson Resende right now.
Indeed, and that's very fast, and consider the fact that in GT4s the lap times are obviously much closer IRL because of difference in conditions and track temperatures and all that. It's actually quite an astonishing time that Pedro Dean has put in there to be well in front of his fellow Brazilian Resende, with Kulhavi right there in P3 as well. So pretty much some things have not really changed apart from whoever's up in front, but it's still a Brazilian leading the way, with a Brazilian second and Argentine in third. Meanwhile, in terms of ratings, you can see there with the small tags on the side, Jackson Resende has the highest one, a lot of them with 8.1, but he's being outclassed here right now by a driver with less rating, but still pretty confident in his own right. Let's see how the race will go once qualifying shakes itself out, but it looks as though it's pretty evenly matched, isn't it, Julian? By about 6/10 between first to fifth at this point.
If you look in the grand scheme of things, it is very close with these GT4s, as we've now got the timing sheets. Yeah, 6/10 between first and fifth. That's very close. Most of that gap, almost half of it, is between Pedro Dean and Resende P1 and P2, as Galavi not too far off them as well. As Bruno De Carmo then are who you just interviewed actually in P5. He was a bit sweaty, it seemed like. Not sure if that's affecting him right now, but currently in P5, but he's not too far off the front row.
Yeah, let's hope that he's not too spent after what was, you can safely say, it was a very intense race for everybody involved just now in race 29 at Ledenon in the Formula 4 1600s. Maybe he's keeping his powder dry for this one, or he's just banking on the fact that maybe he could forego a couple of extra dollars for just staying up in front here for the first race. But again, we're only halfway through qualifying, still another half to go. As you can see, there's a manufacturer spread. I did say just now Porsche was quite popular here. There's 4 of them on the grid, with the likes of Villarreal, De Carmo, Benitez and Resende driving them. But other manufacturers involved here, including Aston Martin from Pedro Dean, fastest right now, and he is using a lot of the road there coming into the stadium section through the Sachs curve now, famously where, well, infamously you can put it, Sebastian Vettel went off there in 2018.
Yeah, nice to see some German brands on a German track then, as we watch Pedro Dean, then, who had a snap of oversteer. So you said he was pushing the limits of the track through the stadium section. At the end of it, he's found the wall there, pushing maybe a bit too hard, then as Lozano there goes up to Pisano, sorry, improves on his time, does not move up a position though. We're now with Jackson Resende though, so pushing a bit too hard there, Pedro Dean, early on in qualifying.
Indeed he is, but we might say early on. Right now, the halfway point is where the lull period is, because, you know, times are coming in, but they're probably not getting faster. But as the track slowly evolves, you can actually see the more of the faster times coming through towards the end. So maybe Pedro Dean's just trying to rehearse the lines, shall we say, to find out when he will actually get the times out of it. But for the time being, that was way too far. As someone's asking, is the current Aston Martin Vantage using a Mercedes engine? As a matter of fact, yes. In essence, it is the same car underneath. As you can see, bang on cue. Nice work there from our camera guys behind the scenes, picking up an Aston Martin on screen of Evander Dantas. Yeah, it's just pretty much similar. So that's why in Formula 1, they pretty much use Aston Martin or Mercedes-Benz as their safety cars. Oh, sorry, Mercedes-AMG. So yeah, you can see where the similarities lie there.
And something I forgot to mention during the track info, actually there's annual concerts at this track called Hockenheimring, or festivals, where pretty much the entire final sector is filled with rock fans, with a lot of rock bands playing there as well. So sometimes it's not just for motorsport, sometimes it's a music fest as well. But for now, the music is the roar of, I think it's V8s, please don't come after me if I'm wrong with that. Maybe you can confirm, Amir.
I think I was thinking the Hockenheimring is held at the Nürburgring itself. I thought, yeah, I think
That
you're not
as
wrong
well.
that there is a music festival that's held at the Hockenheimring as well, if I'm not mistaken. But I think, yeah, we'll have to double confirm that, because yes, it does take place at the Nürburgring, but Hockenheimring does have a similar festival. I forgot for the life of me what it's called at this point. Either way, you're not wrong. The music festival in Germany, what a great way to spend a weekend, especially if you're holidaying there.
Yeah, but still, Pedro Dean leaves us away. Jackson Resende not too far off. We've now got just over 6 minutes left to go. The Mercedes leads the Porsche away. So it's a battle of Mercedes versus Porsche in terms of engines. And not too sure which one's quicker. I would assume it's the Mercedes one, as genuinely speaking, I think, or generally speaking, the Porsche is a bit better in corners and acceleration, as you will need the top speed down the parabolica and towards the hairpin, which is called the Spitzkehre, translates to pointy curve, I believe. Both of these guys just starting the lap now, as you see the bottom timings, or the timings at the bottom of your screen. The yellow means you're not improving, green personal best, and purple means fastest of the lot of everyone. Good job.
Indeed. And speaking of German names there, I did look up what the original layout of the Hockenheimring car. They call it the tricky triangle because it is the same shape of triangle, but in German it's called the Dreieckskurs, or the Reichskurs, right? Is it? How do you pronounce it?
Let me Google that, as can really.
Yeah, because I can see the front drive means 3, but I think 3-pointed circuit is what it's called in German at that time, because it was the circuit that ran into the forest on the opposite direction. It was anti-clockwise prior to that, and it was a motorcycle circuit before it became a permanent facility where we see the Hockenheimring when it used to go into the forest, but then truncated, as you said, at the end of 2001 to become the facility that we know and sometimes love, sometimes loathe, depends on whether you look at it. Some people like it because it has better vantage points. Others reminisce the old Hockenheimring that went through all the way to the Nordkurve on the other side. So really, it's just it's not the Ortskurve. So really, it's just a matter of preference. But I think the modern Hockenheimring has earned its stripes in a way, because it has provided some good racing. But again, it's such a shame we had to lose the old Hockenheimring due to some reasons.
Yeah, Benita's going P3 and Dreieckskurs, triangle course, translates to the old Hockenheimring, as it was proper fast. I mean, so we did lose some motorsport legends along the way. Jim Clark, I think, dying in 1966, at a very young age. So they've changed it here, but to be honest, I like this one a bit more. It's a bit more technical, you can say. You've got the tricky braking zone of the hairpin, then you got the Mercedes-Benz course, and then you head into the stadium section further on in Sector 3. But for now, Pedro Dean is the man who set the pace then. I think that was on his first run as well. He is back out there on a lap. Currently, we are watching Jackson Resende, but Pedro Dean is improving in his second sector as well as Evandro Dantas. Jackson Resende, can he try and topple the Aston Martin of Pedro Dean?
Well, if he can speak of topple, he may need to do it even harder, because look at that. Dean went a tenth even faster there, so 46.3, 4 tenths faster than Resende. Let's see what Resende can do this time, because he did set a personal best in that first sector, a bit slow in the second, but remember, it may be deceiving sometimes because the iRacing timer does stop a bit slower compared to when you cross the control line, so it may be deceiving us. As you can see, Evander Dantas comes across the line. Will he improve? Yes, he does, but he's still about 7 tenths off Pedro Dean, as we see now. Resende coming into the stadium section again, and let's see what he can do. But in fact, we're on board with Ralph Benitez instead. He was fastest in that first sector overall, improved on his second sector. Let's see then if Benitez, driving the Porsche, can actually topple the Aston Martin of Pedro Dean. Across the line he goes, and he does improve his time, but still just off by only 0.04 of a second. So Benitez will be absolutely ecstatic with that one, and he still has enough time to do another lap, but still will be a bit miffed by the fact that 400s can still be found there.
Jackson Resende did improve as well. He got within 1.5 tenths of Pedro Dean. But Benitez missing out by just the skin of his teeth on pole position. But of course, we will flip the grid going into Heat 1, then flip it again going into Heat 2. So these 8 drivers will get a chance to show off their racecraft and not just their quali pace. Currently, we are watching Bruno De Carmo here, the man who won, I think it was Heat 1 in the Formula Fords just an hour ago, give or take. He is improving on his time through Sector 2. Then he's got the banking of Zaxkova, and then through the kind of mini chicane going into the final 2 corners and the Zuidkurve. Very easy to run it too far out wide, but he's kept it within. Then you don't want to do what Pedro Dean did early on in the session, oversteer out wide and hit the barrier. He has not done that. It's a short run up to the line, across it, and we'll have to wait a second. He goes up to P4, not bad.
Yep, that was a decent lap despite the car maybe not up to his liking at this point. Yeah, you can see the look on his face. I think he knows full well that there's some potential underneath that he could find. But unfortunately, he may not have the lap to do so, because it is now just after this 30 seconds left to go. Resende comes across the line, fastest final sector, but still could not topple Pedro Dean. That one lap that Pedro Dean pulled out of the bag was enough to get him on not pole position, the fastest lap in qualifying. We're waiting to see if there's anybody else out on track right now that can do so. We're looking at Ralph Benitez, no. But look at that, first to third, separated by just 0.05 of a second, and everyone are in the same postcode of 46.3. So that's a very close qualifying session. We're gonna get the results shown on our screens after this, as the circuit there you can see. You can still walk on the trail, if not mistaken, onto the walking past the old layout of the Hockenheimring and past the Jim Clark Memorial that was erected there after his death in 1968. It's still traceable from space, but unfortunately the circuit itself up to the Yachts Curve has been reclaimed by Mother Nature, and another legend has incidentally also died there, which was Patrick Depailler in 1980. But enough about reminiscing about the past and the circuit's long and glorious history. We're going to go into the present and in virtual, where our Banky session winner Pedro Dean has set the fastest lap in qualifying, a 46.3, just under 200 of a second from Jackson Resende, his fellow countryman. Ralph Benitez in third, just a further 300 behind Resende. So look at that, almost 500 separating between the three of them. Next up, the Carmo, who was probably looking as though he could set a fastest lap there, but couldn't get it there in the bag. But it will start further up compared to three of them in front after this. And it's Kulhavi, Dantas, Lozano, and Villarreal once again riding up the rear, as we are going to get ready here for the first heat of 2 around the Hockenheimring. And well, heat 1's about to get underway. Not sure what your prediction is going to be here, Julian, but it's a rolling start this time, so at least we won't get anyone stalled on the line.
That is true, and I really do think it's anyone's game. I mean, if the top three are separated by less than half a tenth, there you go, your grid order once again. Reverse grid, so it'll be interesting to see how the likes of Pedro Dean, Jackson Resenda, Bruno De Carmo, and Rafinha fight their way through the grid. Can Diego Villarreal, he had a problem last time out, he started on pole. Can he redeem himself? Well, we'll have to wait and find out.
Indeed, we will wait and find out whether or not any of these guys who are fast in qualifying are going to be able to carve their way through up to the front of the grid. But, made a mistake. Somebody, the likes of Mauricio Lozano being up there, will be an opportunity for him, because we know full well he can easily win races when he has clear air right in front. As you can see, all 4 cameras from the top 4. Villarreal on the top, then below him is Lozano, Dantas, and then Kulhavi right at the very bottom there, with a very nice living room or cabin, I would say, because it looks like a wooden cabin from where we're watching, but again, could be just different cameras. And yawning as well, probably just woken up this morning. But either way, he's gonna get ready for racing, and it's gonna be a rolling start. As we see here, we're coming up to the Mercedes-Benz arena on our right, and fittingly we're viewing a Mercedes-Benz right now here of Mauricio Lozano, as the grid really starts. No, in fact, it's Kulhavi. So as the grid starts forming together, double file, four rows of 2 are gonna get underway here, and the guy who's on the pole of this race, Diego Villarreal, will be controlling the field.
Yep, they're just snailing behind the pace car right now. Turn 1, very tricky turn. Never mind, the pace car is gone. Turn 1, very tricky turn. Just over 90 degrees, a very fast turn, but you do not want to get caught up in any sort of shenanigans then. But we've still got the final 3 seconds to go then. This can be anyone's game, can't it be? Can't it? I mean,
yes, absolutely. It could just be anybody's game, because, again, a rolling start, that means that the field is much closer here, and the pace is being controlled right now by Diego Villarreal. So if he actually punches the whole field up, we might get the field even closer. As you can see, the 4 cameras on the guys at the very back. We got a green flag here right now. Out of the final corner they go. It looks as though Villarreal's got the jump he wanted, and he has cleared Mauricio Lozano before we get to the line. Green flag waves for lap 1 out of 11. You can check out the live timing on our right there. Just scan the QR code to see how your favorite driver is doing. But coming through turn number 1, that tricky, almost 90-degree corner at that first part, looks as though it's clear away in front is Villarreal, with Dantas in second, Lozano third. De Carmo goes for a dive on Lozano. It looks as though he might have made it, but the inside is going to be Lozano's. They're going to go side by side here through the Parabolica for the first time. And among all of the drivers that started here, it looks as though Pedro Dean has made the worst of it.
yeah, he started at the back, so he must have made some sort of mistake there. He can't get overtaken if he started at the back, but still, Bruno De Carmo is not giving this one up. It was an absolute slipstream fest down the Parabolica, real close. They bunch up real nicely at that pin. Villarreal gets caught. Oh, and there's contact. There's contact. Pedro Dean, Lozano, or sorry, not Pedro Dean, Bruno De Carmo and Lozano. I think there was a tag further back. I'm sure we'll see a replay, but wow, controversial start of the GT4s here in Hockenheim.
Wow, Lozano just can't catch the break today, can he? Because we saw in that first heat from the Formula 4 1600s at Ledenon how he was taken out by a out-of-control Pedro Dean, because he was already breaking traction. Unfortunately, found Lozano around the outside, and both of them went out. This time, however, he's gone off in the first heat into the barrier because of a collision with Bruno De Carmo. Might be because of the fact that the car's wheel arches lock together. It's not like in single-seaters where wheels meet. If the wheel arches were to hit each other at the right point, it could just T-bone the car off. And unfortunately for both of them, they're going to be right at the back. As you can see, Bruno De Carmo has gone straight back into pit lane. He has consigned this race to the bin. He's going to look forward to starting the next one up in front. Lozano has still carried on though. He's 7 seconds behind Dean. Here's what happened here, Julian.
Yeah, so they were going side by side into the hairpin here, turn 6, and I think that was Bruno De Carmo who got caught up behind the P2 car then, and then he just tries to run it out wide, but the Mercedes catches his rear right, as we see so often here, and then the Mercedes gets an extra pang just for good measure and sends one of them into the barrier. I think that was Pedro Dean then. sorry, not
Yep.
Pedro Dean, Bruno De Carmo got the extra boost into the barrier, and very much his race over, but he'll be starting at the front. He'll be looking to make amends as we now look behind on Evandro Dantes as Kulhavi is looking to make the overtake on him. Further on the outside, Evandro Dantes gets the lead even on Villarreal.
Looks as though Villarreal got a very poor drive out of the hairpin and nearly makes a touch to Dantas. They're coming up to the Mercedes-Benz arena for the second time. The race is well and truly open between these 6 drivers up in front, and Villarreal gets swallowed up by Jackson Resende, and Resende gets punted off with Benitez finishing him off. And I think it might have been either Resende or Benitez that actually hit the side of Lozano that caused him to hit Bruno De Carmo into the barriers. But whatever it is, the Tony Kanaan team is not having the best of starts here, as Villarreal likewise nearly goes off to the gravel track, is now in the clutches of Pedro Dean.
They're dropping like flies. I mean, look at this. As soon as we go from open to closed wheels, they know they can be a bit more argy-bargy. I think they've taken that a bit door banging all throughout, coming out of the hairpin and towards the Mercedes grandstand. Jackson Resenda, I think, was pushed off there very harshly, but in the end he does come out second best and pointing the wrong direction. He'll be looking if he can, never mind, he's in the pit lane and is out of it. So our two best drivers arguably from the previous race are down and out of it. They'll be starting in the front row though, but Kulavi is not giving this one up. He's got Evandro Dantes in front of him and he will pick up the slipstream down the Parabolica.
Indeed, and he is going to have the same amount of power as well, because these 2 cars are both Mercedes-Benz powered, but the more powerful engine is in that Mercedes-Benz AMG coming up to the hairpin. As we can see what happened to Villarreal and Resende, it was a slight touch from Villarreal. He was on the inside, but unfortunately not enough room was given, and then Benitez just finishes Resende off. As you can see further behind that, Benitez now nearly gets collected by Villarreal, but luckily, it was a slow impact and he could get it underway again. But the Tony Kanaan team, as I said before, not having the best of starts here. This after what was an absolutely electrifying first race that we had in Ledenon, where they were just leading the way. Now they're gonna have to suck it up at the back here and just go forward at the front afterwards in heat number 2.
Yeah, Kulhabi's not giving it up though. He's been hounding the back end or the rear end of Evandro Dantes. Then he's just waiting. Sector 1 is, well, first half of the lap really you can make overtakes into turns 1, 2 and 7. Then throughout the stadium section you can't really make overtakes there. It's very much single file through the bank corners. But now going on to the main straight, can he get a good run? He's got the slipstream. Turn 1 still a very difficult place to make overtakes, just because you can get pinched on the apex and just won't have a great apex speed. But I think he's going to stick around. Yes, he's maybe going to try and get a better run. He's practically pushing the Aston Martin through turn 1, but still just missing a bit of horsepower. Maybe down the Parabolica with slipstream, or is he going to go to the inside of turn 3? Yes, he is, and I think he's got that move done and dusted ahead of the Parabolica. Was that smart though, as you won't have the slipstream now?
Though he did block pass him because Kulhavi actually just jumped on the inside, slowed the momentum a bit so that Dantas cannot have a reply, and look, it has actually paid off. Yes, the slipstream is pulling Dantas back into the back of Kulhavi, but Kulhavi made that move real well, and he takes a well-deserved lead for the time being on lap 4 out of 11, with still quite a ways to go, but it's crucial for him that he stays ahead, especially given the fact that there's a gap between himself and the fastest man on the track right now, Pedro Dean.
As there's another battle starting to form of Benitez then. We're trying to line up a move on the man who started first, then Villarreal down to 4th, but he's kept his car pointing the right direction. You can see the opponent Cam, I think that's a new feature in Season 5 of AMX, but can Benitez find a way through? He was on the podium then, he was fighting rather hard then. Just always running wide as Villarreal, and I think he's spewed off to the right. Yes, he has! As he's now drifting through grass, he gets back on the track, but he's lost that position, running wide and then coming all the way across the track there, really fighting the steering wheel, as that's just lost him, and he's now 1.3 seconds behind. And such a small mistake of running wide, I mean, it costs you so much time.
But credit to where credit is due, though. That's an amazing save what a save from Villarreal. We thought that he was going to get harpooned into the barriers, but he managed to get it on the grass and kept it going. Only lost about 2 seconds, yes, but and a position, but he's still within earshot of that top 5, the rest of that top 5. So well done again. He managed to rescue that race, what looks certain to be doomed.
Did certainly keep his car pointing in the right direction, which is the most important thing when racing. But look at this, Pedro Dean and Evandro Dantas getting racing. Pedro Dean, he had a shocking start, but he's now in P2. Evandro Dantas didn't seem to fight that one too harshly. Maybe it's the extra straight line speed of the Aston Martin. Actually, they're both in Aston Martin, so maybe Evandro Dantas just letting him go. I think he knows that they'll lose time fighting. Maybe they can both set after Kulhavi and the race lead. Lap 5 out of 11, then nothing between that. There you've got the replay. He just dipped a tire in the gravel there and spewed across track, and that's a pretty nice shot right there in the bottom right in the split screen, just drifting his way. Gets back onto the track just before the gravel, which is very crucial. And yeah, he's now down in P5. He does have Lozano 4.9 seconds behind him.
Yep, but at least he's still in the fight then, and mercifully kept it out of the barriers. Otherwise, that would have been the end of it, and he'll have to consign himself back into the pits, waiting for the next heat to start. But wow, that will be one of the shots of the season out of many that we've had over the last few, and certainly that will be ranked high up there as probably one of the saves of the season as well, given how that could have easily ended in tears, but Villarreal kept it again. Now, back to the present time, and we are looking up to the front here from the point of view of Pedro Dean, looking at Gaston Kulhavi, 5/10 of a second, under 6/10 of a second between himself and the Argentine. Evander Dantas is second behind here after being overtaken by Pedro Dean in the previous lap. And it looks as though, in terms of how the track and cars combo go, this might just be in the skill set of Pedro Dean, because it looks as though he seems to like it better compared to the Formula Fords, and he's actually certainly one of the fastest guys here, Julian.
Absolutely, I mean, on pole by just barely on pole, but still on pole, and now he's chasing down the race lead. I think he'll have to wait just 1 or 2 laps more. Can he get a good run out of the hairpin? Listen to that V8 roar. If you get a good run, you can make a move into the Mercedes-Benz section there with the grandstand, but the Mercedes probably gets extra 5 horsepower when you enter the section here. Just due to the fans, or maybe just the corner name. You never know what sort of black magic is around the Hockenheimring. But still, Kulhavi leads Pedro Dean. Evandro Dantas dropping back slightly, so it seems like this top 2 have got great pace right now.
Indeed they do, and in fact they're pulling even further away from Dantas after that overtake by Dean in the previous lap. Looks as though he has no reply to both his fellow countrymen and the Argentine front. The Argentine though makes a slight mistake coming through the tax curve. Luckily though, Kulhavi manages to get it all up, but he lost about a few hundredths of a second here, as we can see the comments coming through about the amazing sounds of the V8s on both of these cars. The Mercedes and the Aston Martin, of course, they share the same engine underneath. It's just slightly more powerful for the Mercedes because it is a factory engine for them anyway. So, cross line they go. Faster that time was Dean by about 3/10 of a second. Kulhavi now, we saw how he maintained pressure, sustained pressure so well in the Formula 4 1600s. Let's see if we could do the same thing here in the GT4 AMG, Julian.
Yeah, I do think the Hockenheimring is a place where it's easier to overtake than where we were at just previously in Ledenon. But the Aston Martin chasing down the Mercedes. He's got the slipstream down the parabolica. He's edging ever so closely. He's going to go to the inside. The Mercedes chooses to stick on the outside and the racing line. It's going to be a big set from the Aston Martin. Draws alongside towards the apex. Look how much room there is. The Mercedes tries the switchback, tries to get the better run. As now the chase begins, I think the Mercedes did get the better run. Now he's got the slipstream towards the Mercedes-Benz grandstand. There's nothing between the two for now. Can Pedro Dean keep the lead? He defends the inside. You can see the Mercedes looking left, looking right, going to the outside. Can you find there's some space there? No, Pedro Dean, and I think that's the best chance the Mercedes will have to overtake unless he can get a good run out of here and just stick with him for half a lap longer.
That was a clean overtake maneuver. As you can see, the comment comes through there with Pedro Dean's move on Kulhavi because, again, He had the inside, came through. So Harvey thought he could actually get the momentum out of there through the hairpin to try and get back the slipstream, but it looks as though Dean has him covered only for the time being, because next time by, as we head into the Parabolica, this might be Harvey's chance to just retaliate immediately and try to get back the lead. But it'll be a bit of a tall order given the fact that we saw in qualifying how much faster Dean was compared to the rest of the field. Now he gets to really show what he's made of here, as he's in the lead trying to extend the gap.
Yeah. One small mistake, though, Uncle Harvey is going to be right there. He will also have the slipstream. As you mentioned before, the Mercedes a bit stronger in the straights. That's what he's preying on. He needs all the horses he can get, all the ponies he can get as they go into the parabolic. I think he's just a bit too far back, Amir. And I think he's lost the lead there for good, as Pedro Dean will be able to set off unless he makes a mistake. He needs to keep the pressure on, though, and try and force it. Maybe try for a lunge, a fake one up the inside, but he's just a bit too far back, and I think he can't do anything about it.
No, sorry, he can't, but you can see there on the straights how much faster he is compared to Dean. We know that Dean had a good exit coming out of turn number 2, but because that grunt that Mercedes had compared to the Aston Martin, he manages to just reel him in bit by bit, but not enough for a move, or at least he's trying to psych him out coming into the hairpin. But through the corners, the Aston is way better, especially in the hands of Dean right now. He just pulled away, and what was a 10th gain is a 10th loss now for Harvey to Dean.
The Sector 3, Pedro Dean's just got so much confidence, it seems like. He just knows exactly what the car will do. Kulhavi a bit hesitant there, not really sure what the grip levels are like behind another car, but he's still not too far off, half a tenth. Not impossible, as we see Resende then traveling he's just doing a bit of practice for Heat 2, it seems like. He knows putting in these laps still important, despite being 35 seconds off the next man, Lozano, who, right here, he's not, you know what, the best battle we have right now is for the lead, which is 6 tenths. He's also not too close to the car in front, which is Villarreal P5. He's lost a bit of time, but he's managed to stay consistent, as we see right here, coming through turn 1 in the Porsche, very bumpy, running over the curbs, maximizing the track, as we saw in the previous races, but also in this race.
Yep, or we just saw in this particular heat how he nicked a bit of the gravel trap on the outside and nearly got steered into the grass on the other, but managed to save it. We're running through the field, actually. That's quite a nice touch. When there's a bit of a lull period, when not much action is going on, we get to see how everyone is in relation to each other. We saw Resende just now right at the back, 35 seconds behind Lozano, who is 3 seconds behind Villarreal. Now we jump to Ralph Benitez. He's actually reeling in Evandro Dantas, so this is going to be intra-Brazilian battle here. Who's going to come on top? There's Dantas' camera. We saw Benitez just now, who I think, it's fair to say, looks a bit like Tyler 1 from some angles, but that might be a compliment for him that he can take. Hopefully he can be as tenacious as the man himself to get up into P3, just 7 tenths of a second separating the both of them, with it looks as though Dantas being clipped here by 2 to 3 tenths per sector. Now it's just 4 tenths being gained by Benitez. That's another battle we have to watch out for here, Julian.
Yeah, and Evandro Dantas running wide there. He did nick a tire in the gravel. Luckily, unlike Villarreal earlier on, he did not spew across the track. But I think the best battle we got is this one, as Pedro Dean has set up from Calavi gap at 1 second now. As Benitez has been closing, and we will now see Sector 3 that he's closed it by 2 tenths. Very consistently closed it by 2 tenths, 6 tenths overall, and he's now within the proper slipstream area. Maybe still just a bit too far back then to make the move. You pretty much need to be within 4 tenths down the Parabolica if you want to have a look. You can be within 5 tenths, but now he is getting close and close. If he can get a good run out of here, maybe sacrifice turn 2. You gotta get a nice run out of turn 3 and onto the Parabolica. You can see once again quick in Sector 1. He's got the slipstream coming around turn 4 now, but I think he might have to wait just one more lap, Amir.
Yep, but that will be the last lap after this, and Benitez knows full well if he cannot get this by this time, he has to be much closer at the line to stand any chance of standing on the podium here. Coming out of the hairpin for the penultimate time, 2 tenths of a second. He manages to reel in more of a gap now to the Aston Martin right in front. As you can see, Porsche versus Aston Martin, that's quite a rare word to say, but we might see more of that, especially next year IRL when Porsche and Aston Martin do meet in the hypercar class in the World Endurance Championship. But for now, we're seeing a GT4 battle between Evandro Dantas and Ralph Benitez. Benitez is the one that's actually turning up the weight here, putting so much pressure on Dantas, but Dantas so far has not buckled. He has been maintaining position well, but he just cannot get the pace up. He's still leading time to Benitez right behind as we now come into the Sachs curve for the penultimate time. Next time by, final lap. That will be Benitez's last shot. And again, as you mentioned before, only turn 1 and 2 if you want to actually make that maneuver, it could be there. But then after that, it's the hairpin. That's your prime overtaking spot here at the Hockenheimring.
Need to get a good run out of the final corner, and he did just that. Then he's very close behind, then 3/10. If he can just stick with him through turns 1, 2, and 3, he will be looking to make the move in down the hairpin, as you just mentioned. But he's real close, a lot closer than he was last time out. He just needs to get a good run, maybe go for a later apex. Yes, he does, and I think Evandro Dantas missed his braking zone as now he's almost ready to draw alongside right to left. He got the better run, he's picked up the slipstream down the parabolica. Will it be enough? The suck has started. He will go chasing to the outside, I think, as Evandro Dantas is hugging the inside, not letting it go anytime soon. Back to the middle, a bit of weaving, as now we've got a beautiful helicopter shot on your left. You got Benitez on your right. You got Dantas. Benitez trying to make the move. I think he'll try the switchback right to left. That can work out if he gets a nice run towards the Mercedes grandstand. Nothing between the two. I think he was just a bit too cautious towards the hairpin. Evandro Dantas was a bit more aggressive under braking. Can he make a move now to the inside? It's his final opportunity. He does go to the inside, and I think he's going to move. Can Evandro Dantas hold it around the outside? Door to door, banging them practically, but he's got the move, and that's a crucial move up to the podium position on the final lap.
Brilliant move there from Benitez on Dantas. Kulhavi's also lost time to Dean at the front, but hats off to Benitez. He made the move stick. It was a little bit nip and tuck, might have been aggressive because they went door to door. As you can see, Dantas goes for immediate reply, tries to harpoon him through the Sachs curve, but to no avail. Benitez has taken third place. Maybe not rightfully so, but he had to work for it, and he's gotten it. Meanwhile, back up to the front, Pedro Dean comes across the line, takes victory, puff of the cheeks. He knows he's got the job done. He's proven his prowess here by taking victory and proven why he was the fastest man in qualifying and in the fastest man in heat number 1. Second is Kulhabi by 1.5 seconds. Then we have Benitez and Dantas, half a second in it between both of them as they cross the line. Rest of the field then, Villarreal, Lozano, and then we have to wait another half a minute before we get Resende across the line. But that is heat number 1. An exciting finish for the podium, but up in front after Dean, when he took the lead, there was no looking back, wasn't it, Julian?
Absolutely not. He was tunnel vision pretty much there, not ever looking back. I mean, he got the lead, maybe a bit nervous the lap after, but ever since then he's just focused on his driving. But he will be starting last, so we'll see if he can bring that racecraft back in heat 2, as we will have a front row of Bruno De Carmo and Jackson Resende. That's going to get interesting, isn't it?
Oof. If you think Pedro Dean was puffing his cheeks because he was relieved for that, he will be starting to breathe a bit more tensively after that, because knowing the fact that the front row is going to be hard to beat. But for the time being, he basked in a dominant victory after overtaking Gaston Kulhabi for the lead. 1.5 seconds between himself and the Argentine. Benitez in third, Dantas in fourth, with another half a second that separating between both of them after a great battle on the last lap. Villarreal, Lozano, Resende, and De Carmo round out your field. But as you mentioned, Julian, that front row is looking very tantalizing, given the fact that it is two of the fastest guys here, and we might see some sparks fly if they can go side by side once again.
Indeed, as we're now lined up for heat 2, then as Jackson Resende did get the fastest lap, so he got an extra $2 there added onto his total there. But now in first, it will be Bruno De Carmo ahead of Jackson Resende.
Yep, as you can see, the two Delinte, Tony Kanaan cars. I'm not sure who's that one now. In fact, it is actually De Carmo that's actually weaving right now, getting some heated tires. And that's a good thought here, as we can see the starting grid on our screens. De Carmo and Resende, your front row, with Lozano in third place. Right beside him is Diego Villarreal, first of the two SART cars other than Gaston Kulhavi. Then Ibadan Dantas and Ralph Benitez on your third row. And the last row is Kulhavi and Dean after they exchanged positions at the start of, towards the end of that first heat. And now they start at the back here. Let's see how they can make their way through the front, especially given the fact that the front row of the grid is two of the fastest guys in the previous race. Found it tough going here for that first heat. Now they get to do it all over again. Press the reset button for heat number 2. As you can see, all the cars now make their way through 4 rows of 2 to come through and start the second heat, Julian.
Yeah, as you can see there on the face comes a bit of a smile between the two teammates. I think both of them are wanting some redemption after the previous heat. Bruno De Carmo DNFing and Jack Sirius ending finishing 30 seconds off. So we have got 11 laps in front of us for E2. Then I think Bruno De Carmo has gone, and he's gone very early on. Jackson Resende could not react, but he's not got any pressure behind. Meanwhile, behind that though, Lozano and Villarreal side by side towards turn 1. You don't usually see overtaking there. It's a bit choppy for me there, but I think they've managed. Yep, they're all pointing in the right direction. Running wide though was, I think that was Benitez, or maybe it was Andrew Dantes there. But side by side, once they get between them, Villarreal and Benitez, sorry, not giving it up yet, as now let the Slipstream Festival begin.
Indeed, and we're coming out to the Parabolica for the first time there. It looks as though it's a little bit spread out, as you can see. Oh no, Kulhavi! He's lost it on his own. So, the man who finished second in that first heat, after getting his lead snatched away by Pedro Dean from the slipstream, looks as though he's going to be all the way at the back by himself here, unless something dramatic happens to the other guys right in front of him. As you can see, live timing, you can keep up to date with what happens to your favorite drivers by scanning the QR code on the right hand side of the screen. But it's Kulhavi then, you can clearly see visually and by the gaps how far he's behind, about 10 seconds, 10.5 seconds or more than that after that spin through Parabolica. We might get a replay of that, what happened to him. Maybe he clipped the sausage curve a bit too hard and sent him to the back. Whatever it is though, that's his race compromise. In fact, bang on cue, thanks to our absolutely brilliant production team to get the shot. Oh, it looks as though he might have actually checked up on the back of Dean, got spooked a bit and spun on his own.
Running wide once again in the gravel there. Lozano is Pedro Dean already moving up 2 positions off the start. The top 3 remained untouched, but being put under pressure is Lozano from Benitez. As there you see, very focused with the high quality headphones that these guys are running. Onto lap 2 out of 11 then. It's anyone's game. Will Pedro Dean be able to fight his way back to the front, or are Bruno De Carmo and Jackson Resende just a bit too quick and too far in front for him? As comparing lap times in lap 1, not really worth it yet. But it seems to be 2 by 2 so far. You can see individual battles already starting to form. The top 2, P3, P4, and then P6 and P7, or sorry, P5 and P6 closely together. As I think we'll see overtake here. Benitez practically pushing Lozano through turns 2 and 3 onto the Parabolica. He's looking to go to the inside. Nope, he's staying. He thinks I'm gonna have a bit more slipstream, so I can have a bit more overspeed than the Porsche driving, overtaking the Mercedes driver, as it is now a 1, 2, 3, 4 Porsches.
And not only just Porsches, but 1, 2, 3 for the Delinte Tony Kanaan esports team. So that's a sight that they would love to see after what happened in the first heat, where all 3 of them were dropping like flies, as you said, in that first couple of laps alone. Now they're back out in the front where they feel like they rightfully belong, and looking to work together here to get him away from Lozano, and especially from Pedro Dean, who we know has been the fastest driver here in this particular track in the car combo.
Yes, he is the benchmark. He's the man to be. Being on pole, winning Heat 1. Can he do the same thing coming to the back of the grid? Well, he's going to have to topple some big names. The first one, or he's already dispatched of a few, but the next one on his list is Lozano. He needs to catch up a bit, though. He's 9 tenths behind. Jackson Resende is also right behind Bruno De Carmo here. Seems like he's a lot quicker in Sector 2. Maybe Bruno De Carmo had a bit of a oversteer moment there, Look at that, super close through sectors 1 and 3. It's in sector 2 where the time is found by Jackson Resende, then clobbers the Apex car, but it's not done yet between the two teammates.
Indeed, but look at how much faster Benitez is compared to the both of them. He was 2/10 clear of the Carmo, but he has an immediate threat behind, which is Maurizio Lozano, who he just overtook a lap prior. Though, having said that, it might just be a bit of a lost cause for Lozano because he's losing a bit of time to Benitez, and that might let him fall into the clutches of Pedro Dean, who will be loving to actually get up to the battle between himself and the rest of the Brazilians in that Tony Kanaan squad.
Yep, could just be Jackson Resende biding his time, waiting for when it is a slam dunk overtake. But that can also mean that they can trip up on each other. As you see, he's right behind Bruno De Carmo, needing to take avoiding action there. You see the opponent Cam, two very chilled out and serious guys. They're further back though. Pedro Dean, he has managed to close in on Maurizio Lozano. There's half a second now between them. Last time out it was a second, give or take. It seems like it's a bit more of a calmer race, but the gaps are a lot closer than Heat 1, isn't it?
Oh my word, that was very close. I thought for a second that Resende might have actually rear-ended the Carmo. That's sorry to cut you off, but that was quite surprising. It looked almost like Jaws coming in from Resende, but luckily though, he knows how to back off, of course, because first of all, a fellow countryman and a teammate too, so that's the sort of trust that you do not want to actually do. And if somebody is actually trying to jinx that particular instance, I don't think it will happen, because yes, we've seen teammate kills before, but I think they know what's at stake. It's a Tony Kanaan 1-2-3, a Brazilian 1-2-3. They do not want to jeopardize this right now.
Absolutely not. Then lap 4 at 11. These first opening laps have absolutely flown by. Pedro Dean might be able to dispatch of Lozano on this on this back straight even. He is not too far behind, but still Bruno De Carmo leads away. Now Jackson Resende is going to pull to the inside. Maybe he's going to go for it up the inside, then further back. Look at that lime green Aston Martin. He might make the move. No, he stays behind for now, but Jackson Resende makes the move, but he's gone a bit too deep. And now with the switchback and the better drive coming off the Epping can, Bruno De Carmo chase him back down towards the Mercedes grandstand, or is he just a bit too far back? Yes, he is. He's going to stick behind for now and probably wait until lap 5 to make the overtake.
Yeah, but they have to work together here, because if they could talk to each other on Discord, which I think they do, or whichever communication medium they use, they will have to let the guy who's fastest right now come through and just become the guy that will lead the slipstream train up in front, because the moment they start battling, it's going to bring in the other guys into play. Like, for example, Lozano then nearly went across and did a Villarreal. Likewise, you can see Dantas Dantas put it behind. Actually went even more rally crossing across there. Luckily, he kept it together. And incidentally, we do have a rallycross track in Hockenheim itself, because it was the home of the RX Germany. But we do not want to see rallycross in more high-powered cars, especially given the fact that these things can go underneath you in a split second if you were to just take your eye off the ball. And for Lozano, he got away with that one, but at the expense of the fact that Dean is much, much closer. And you can see that fastest lap of the race, a 46.5.
Yeah, I won't be surprised if we see overtake here. They need to both get a good run out of here, but I think Benitez, Lozano, compromised by his line a bit. He ran a bit deep through turn 2, and that affected his run onto the parabolica. Tucked in the slipstream now is Pedro Dean. Is he still a bit too far back? The Aston Martin does not seem to have the power that the Mercedes has, as we've been talking about, but now he's going to pull to the inside, towards the Epic. This seems to be the favorite overtaking spot for our drivers today, and he does. He had his nose up front, so Lozano was forced to leave space, running wide, and Pedro Dean's got that move done. Now he needs to set after Benitez, gap at 1.5 seconds.
Wow, wait, that was a late move and a half, but I think Lozano made it easy for Dean because he outbraked himself afterwards by just going a bit wide, and that allowed Dean through. You can see the reaction from Lozano afterwards that he knew full well he could have done better in that defense, but at least to his credit, he did not lose the car afterwards. Now he's only just about half second behind Dean, but he's still in touch of those Tony Kanaan cars right in front. You can still see them. You can see those black shadows up in front, he can still at least sniff a podium a chance here if anything were to happen between those guys in that top 4.
I tell you what, it's an absolute treat to see 3 teammates just leading away. Seems almost synchronized with all of them taking the same racing line, not doing anything stupid. Yeah, of course, we've seen some people in chat try and jinx a civil war down at the racing team here, but Pedro Dean, he is not really closing in. He closed in a 10th in the final sectors of the couple of the last lap, and as you see, rather equal throughout the overall lap of lap 5. Lap 6 at 11, then 5 laps to go. It's tell what's flown by, but that's because of the close racing, not really the wheel-to-wheel we've had, which you gotta love as well. These guys, top of the top, knows the deal they've been, and it just shows how difficult, but how well these guys managed to follow behind another driver. Some people would miss the braking zone, or some people would drive too conservatively and lose out time, but these guys pushing on the absolute limit, making sure they don't rear-end each other, but also don't drop into the clutches of Pedro Dean.
Yep, and to prove that particular point, how they've been driving close to each other, look at those lap times. In that first sector alone, it's actually just plus or minus 0.2 of a second between them. So they're keeping up the pace, but have they actually stalled each other a bit too much? Because at this particular instance, for example, De Carmo and Benitez, they're quite close to each other. If they get any closer and start getting into a mode where they start battling, that will allow Dean to come much closer, and it will become a 4-way fight at the front between the Brazilians, but not in the way they would have wanted, especially the fact that it's a formation finish up in front at this point.
Yeah, I think it's anyone's game. The problem is for Pedro Dean, he is closing in, not by that much. There you go, you see in sector, he's currently racing. If Jackson Resende maybe has noticed the threat of Pedro Dean, the gap now at 1 second, so he's checked out there. But you see, seems like in sector 2 is where Pedro Dean's the quickest. He needs to get past 2 cars, then he needs to set after the lead. So it's not as straightforward as it is, and he's not really closing in. So maybe on race trim, he is not as good as we thought. Quali really a strong suit, but not really closing, and maybe he's kind of tired himself out after Heat 1. It is very difficult to go through the entire pack, one race right after the other.
Yeah, given the fact that if you do it twice, you will be known as one of the Triple Crown winners. He did qualify fastest. He won the first heat. If he tried to actually get a clean sweep with this, that will be a tall order even for him after what was an absolutely brilliant first heat where he just clawed his way through. Might just be a difficult one this time, however, because it's 3 fast guys right in front. As someone pointed out, Ralph Benitez has a nice haircut. I was almost thinking again, he looked like Tyler 1, but Tyler 1 of course has less hair compared to Benitez, but looks aside, he is quite aerodynamic at this point because he's right behind De Carmo by just 2.5 tenths, 3 tenths of a second here. If he wants to actually get by now, he has to do so quickly, otherwise he will have Pedro Dean for company very soon.
Speaking of Pedro Dean, I think his progress has been put on neck now. He's not really closing in. In fact, I think he lost compared to last lap. Jackson Resende is continuing to check out gap at 1.3 now. Bruno De Carmo is just hoping that he can hold on to P2 now. But we said this last time out, if you start to fight, the driver behind will catch up. So maybe Benitez waiting until the last possible moment, because he's very much within striking distance, especially if Bruno De Carmo keeps making those little mistakes like running wide. Maybe he should wait until the last lap just to make sure that there's no threat of the lime green Aston Martin of Pedro Dean.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's easier said than done, and given the fact that he has that temptation now within the slipstream to get by his teammate De Carmo. He's safe for the time being though. 1.6, 1.7 seconds the difference. Is he gonna line one up? No doubt that they'll be communicating with each other to prevent that. And yes, he holds his urges for the time being. But make no mistake, you can see by the look of pensiveness on his face, he wanted to actually get by De Carmo because he was looking behind for a second to see where Dean was.
Pedro Dean still not being able to close up, and Villarreal also in his own little battle with Ivan Tridantis, but this is the battle for P2 then. Lap 8 out of 11, this second part of the race has flown by so far. Next time around, it'll be 3 laps remaining. I think Benitez will make the move. Question is when and how cleanly he can do it without losing time, as Bruno De Carmo running wide there, dipping his tire into the gravel there, and that's lost him a bit of momentum here, as it's very close between these two, isn't it? I mean they are very much pushing each other to the limits.
And then some, might we add, because it's still both of them nip and tuck, hammer and tongs, trying to go through it. Someone's asking where's Victor Miranda. Well, we're not really sure. He's also one of the Tony Kanaan guys, though he's not making an appearance here today for reasons. Maybe he's off doing other races, whatever it is. He would love to have been involved in this particular Titanic scrap between Bruno De Carmo and Ralph Benitez. It looks as though the both of them, they have been slipstreaming each other quite a lot actually, because they are pulling so much away from Pedro Dean. It's just a battle between both of them, because Resende has pretty much checked out here. He's going to win a couple of heat races here today. That will do his bank account real well. But the battle for second is still on. Let's see if De Carmo and Benitez might just swap positions here. De Carmo holds his line. Benitez on the inside. They're both smiling. I think they are talking to each other right now. Coming through here. Here's Benitez on the inside and De Carmo on the outside. It's a clean move. That was pretty much orchestrated to prevent time loss.
Bruno De Carmo is now left. Oh, real close there. We were in the trunk there of the Porsche. Seems like it's not a lot of space. Would not recommend it for a family road trip, but just for motor racing. What do you expect? But that got real close there. But that was about as clean as you can do it without losing too much time. And as you mentioned, slipstreaming each other. They're pulling a gap here to Pedro Dean, who can't do anything. As I said before, he's gaining in Sector 3. That's where you don't want any car in front of you, and that's exactly what he has got right now. But lap 9 out of 11, and it seems like it's going the way of these 3 Brazilians, isn't it?
Indeed, the 3 Brazilians, the 3 Tony Kanaan drivers, and they are also the 3 teammates together in that particular squad, just having the time of their lives at the front here, pulling away from the guy behind. And in fact, Dean has no answer to the fact that the slipstream really has paid off for the Tony Kanaan boys, because despite Benitez and De Carmo were fighting each other, they still managed to do a lap way faster than Pedro Dean. Look at that, 46.8, the fastest time among that top 5 even for Benitez. So it really helped out. Now De Carmo wants to go and repay the favor by slipstreaming him instead of being the one giving the slipstream to Benitez. That was nearly close to coming a cropper though. Really nip and tug, as we said before. But again, the teammates are just orchestrating this. They want to have a formation finish just for the team photos.
Indeed, as Bruno De Carmo just holding off for now. If he can get close, he might be able to make a move, but I don't think he'll be too desperate to make it into the hairpin on the final lap. But Ollie, Jackson Resende, like you said, he's picked up a couple of session wins. He's been on the podium every race apart from Heat 1 day where he got involved in an incident. But for now, he's kept his nose clean. He's kept his racing clean. He pulled away from his fellow Brazilian compatriots just a couple laps ago, where he really decided to put the hammer down and press on, and he's done just that. Gap it now almost 2 seconds. He's really going for it here, letting his teammates fight it out for P2. He's like, you guys sort that out, I'll see you later. I'll see you guys in Parc Ferme as a race winner in AMX once again.
Indeed, he did win the previous race in race 29, heat number 2, after a Titanic battle between himself and De Carmo, incidentally. But this one is going to be more easy going for him as he starts to find light. White flag flies, and this will be pretty much a coronation lap for Jackson Resende, unless something happens. But look at that, 46.3. He's still going for that fastest lap, so he wants an extra couple of dollary dues in his bank account here by just going at it full pelt. Meanwhile, speaking of full pelt, you can see just now how hard Bruno De Carmo was pushing. The car was jumping all over the curb coming into turn number 1, nearly wiping him off to the outside of the track, but he kept it together. Now he's trying to actually get back to the slipstream of Ralph Benitez while still increasing the gap to Pedro Dean behind. I think Pedro Dean is pretty much an inert threat at this point. It's just the battle between these 2 teammates.
Yep. and the best overtaking chance has passed, which is the hairpin. I think Bruno De Carmo's taking notice. He's dropped a bit off here in the final laps, but P3 is better than spinning around on the final lap and ending out, I don't know, down in P6, give or take, something like that. But it's been a great race from all three of these. I mean, they've led away from the start, not really made contact with anyone. It was a bit of chaotic in the midfield in the opening laps, but these guys have never looked back, have they? I mean, especially this man right here, Jackson Resende. He's got one sector to go. He's got the Sachskurve, the bank. Don't do a Sebastian Vettel and you'll be A-okay. And he's not done it to number 99. Then through the little left-right chicane here. Because then he's only got turn 15 and the Südkurve left to go. Here we go then. One final braking zone, one final apex for Jackson Resende onto the main straight, and he's going to cross the line to take the win here ahead of his two teammates, Benitez and Bruno De Carmo, P2 and P3. Pedro Dean, the top three was just a bit out of his range here, wasn't it, tonight, Amir?
Absolutely. After the dominance he had in that first heat, I think P4 may not be such a bad return given the fact that the rubber to green was given back to the Tony Kanaan boys after the mare they have in the first heat. Then you can have Lozano P5, Danta 6, Villarreal 7 and Kulhavi after the spin at the start of the heat comes home at dead last, but at least he gets his car across the line without any more histrionics. So there's the Hockenheimring. We see it for the very last time here before we go off into the closing stages of this broadcast. Ralph Benitez gets the faster lap, but Jackson Resende takes his second heat win of the day, and after missing out on a third win because he had to fight with Bruno De Carmo across the line, he still walks away here with a session win and probably the overall winner in the AMX 5 standings in this particular race. He'll be happy with that one. Then Benitez, De Carmo, Dean, Lozano, the top 5. Outside that, Dantas, Villarreal, and then Kulhavi rounds out your field. But it has been quite an exciting race, a pair of races, isn't it? We saw drama from start to finish, especially in heat number 2 in the Formula 4 1600s at Ledenon. It was a slightly calmer one in Hockenheim, but nonetheless, a fascinating battle to the end. So coming back to us now,
Absolutely.
and looks as though the day turned tonight over there for you, eh, Julian?
Yeah, I mean, what a race. Two absolutely fantastic track and car combos. One slightly more bizarre one that I don't think a lot of people have heard one, and one definitely more classical. Two fantastic heats then, absolutely incredible. Pedro Dean just a bit out of his reach, the podium in heat 2. Still a great race to come from the back into P4.
Indeed, and can you imagine how Jackson Rossetti would feel in both, difference in emotions? First, he had two completely tense heats where he had to settle for second in the first one, and then after that win the second one. This one, however, contrast in emotions. He was right at the back in the first heat, but then an easy win. So, yes, it pays off to struggle first and then enjoy the reap of the rewards in the end. Isn't it?
Absolutely. He got the move on Bruno De Carmo early, and he did get a bit of cheeky practice when he was 30 seconds off, which he used out. He used it wisely in Heat 2, but he checked out. I don't know what went into his blood. He just decided, all right, let me put my foot down and show these guys what I made out of it, and gets a 2-second lead out of nowhere practically. Takes the win. Great race from him, and a great session overall from him.
Indeed, and in fact, we're gonna go over now to the results for the AMX 5 Race 30 here and see where everybody stands. So, no surprises that Pedro Dean with that first heat win, he actually is the most scored the most among all of the guys here today. Resende with that second heat win propels him to second place, and Ralph Benitez, a consistent scorer, manages to rack up third. So, behind them, Kulhavi and Dantas, your top 5, Lozano, De Carmo, and Villarreal finish off your finishes here, but Bruno De Carmo might walk away a bit more disappointed compared to the first race where he was actually over the moon. This one, maybe the Formula Ford cars really took a lot out of him, but regardless, it is a great day for Brazil because their drivers have all taken out wins here today. So I think that pretty much wraps around here because the interviews we had to skip for now. But tomorrow we'll have AMX 0 and AMX 20 action, so look out for that one. That might be an absolute barn burner because we got more of the same, but with a few extra steps, especially that a lot of drivers will be interested to join, especially in AMX 20. But as you can see, for the final time tonight, our social media handles below from Instagram, Twitch, X, formerly Twitter, Discord, YouTube, where we're live alongside the Twitch channel, and then you can sign up with the races on amxrace.com. Of course, short form content will come a bit later after this, alongside Instagram. So, before we head off, any final words you had to leave us off here today, Julian?
You put me on the spot here. No, not really. I mean, great racing overall. Can't wait to watch along tomorrow. I'll be there in the Twitch chat or YouTube chat, and yeah, just great racing today. Another great day for racing in AMX.
Absolutely. Well, that's one way to end it off and put it on a good note to come off here for today's races. But don't go anywhere, at least until then. Tomorrow we'll be bringing in more of the same for AMX 0 and AMX 20. But for now, from me, Amir, alongside me, Julian, it's Auf Wiedersehen and good night.
Goodbye.